pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll, Atlantic.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Tango Delta nominal.
Flight down, feed off. Bring in, feed off. Off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.
Hello and welcome back to Boca Chica. We are spooled up again. It looks like the storms have passed from earlier. If you've been hanging out over in Starbase Live, you've had a live view of this the entire time. But it looks like they may have begun unbolting the base of B4, and it looks like they might be getting ready to lift. So Jack is in place. I believe Mary is getting in place. This is Jack's view right here. I'm Stephen Marr, by the way. I was not in the stream earlier. I was taking a friend to the airport. Everybody loves doing that. But I'm home and I'm ready to watch this lift. I think they were waiting for me to get home, and I definitely appreciate that. And with me today on comms, I've got DK, aka Derek. How you doing, Derek?
Yeah, very good. How are you? We're back.
We're back. Well, you're back. I'm
Well,
here
I'm back. I've been here. Hopefully with a little less storm.
And behind the scenes, we of course have Michael Baylor pulling strings and hitting switches and whatnot.
Yes, and we can see right now a bunch of crews on Jack's camera. And Jack says it sounds like they are unbolting Booster 4.
All right, awesome. And yeah, we're ready to take your questions in chat. Of course, hit the @NASASpaceflight tag, and we'll be able to see those, and we'll queue those up and ask any questions that we know how to answer. We also, I think, have Chris G. He will come up. He will show up hopefully later to answer any super high-tech questions for us. But for now, yeah, you see a beautiful B4 standing there next to the launch pad and launch table, and hopefully we're going to see a lift. And I just got back from this place. I spent a week in hanging out around Starbase, and it was my first time there, and I've been really itching to talk about it. I'll probably talk more about it on NSF Live this weekend, but I just have to say it is everything and more than what I hoped for. It's, of course, huge structures. Seeing Starship for the first time was awesome. But I think the first thing that really impressed me was everywhere you look, there are people doing work. And those of you that know, I live over here on the Space Coast, and I like to go up to the port and watch Falcon 9 recovery operations, stuff like that. And it seems like in the port, it's there's people out there, and they're usually working on like one or two different things. At Starbase, it's literally everywhere you look. There are hundreds of people. They're like ants all over everything. Just everybody's doing something, and it's all useful. Sometimes it's just moving dirt. Sometimes they're up on those crane lifts and tinkering around on the boosters or the starships. And it's incredible. And I'm looking at these Raptors at the base here, and I'm trying to see. I don't see it. There was one Raptor. If you were following along while I was there in Boca Chica, I tweeted out a photo of the of RB2, which I guess the SpaceXers had nicknamed R2B2, and they painted an R2D2 on the engine bell.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was pretty. It was actually a fairly high fidelity painting of R2D2. It was like when I was snapping photos and I couldn't tell what it was. I thought it was a stenciled number or something, and I started going through the photos and I was like, oh my goodness, this is R2D2 on the engine bell. And I'm guessing it's down there somewhere, but we don't see it. It would be late. The stenciling would be it would just say RB2 on it, but then
Sure.
below that it would have a little R2D2 right there on the engine bell. So super cool. And the other thing that really impressed me is the amount of work that Mary does out there. I knew, she's out there day in and day out, and 7 days a week, y'all. She is out there 7 days a week. And I just want to be clear that the amount of work that she puts in, getting up before sunrise, and many times not really calling it a day until after sunset, and with all the, stopping by and uploading the videos and the clips and sending it out to the editing team to get the videos put together. There is an awful lot of work that goes into making these daily videos. So a huge appreciation. It was an honor to get to meet Mary and kind of learn some of her things. I got to give her a day off one of those days and kind of handle the daily video. And so kind of getting in there and getting my hands dirty doing the daily video. And that's just one day, that does not compare to what Mary does day in and day out. So definitely huge thanks to her. And I know everybody in chat appreciates what Mary does, and we all do too. Super hot out there. Let me tell you about these mosquitoes, okay?
Oh, I can imagine. My goodness.
Let me tell you. Okay, most of the mosquitoes that you see are normal human-sized mosquitoes. The little one, smaller
They're
than
not
a dime or
human-sized,
whatever.
but yeah.
Yeah, well, they're, normal,
Yeah,
everyday.
normal size.
But every once in a while, I would see these massive ones. They were like the size of a quarter. And like, you know how certain bugs will kind of be like, ooh, you don't want to look at that. But most time you see a mosquito, it doesn't like freak you out or gross you out or anything. But you see one of these big things land on you, and it's like, oh no, they are massive. And it was starting every day. As soon as I got outside, it was coating myself in mosquito repellent, and then once the sun was up, it was coating myself in sunblock. And then repeat the cycle as needed throughout the day to avoid getting sunburnt and avoid getting eaten alive by the mosquitoes. And it looks like we have someone else joining us in the comms. We have Ian joining us. Are you there, Ian? Can we hear you?
Yes, I am. How's it going, guys?
Very good.
You're very good, Ian. How you doing?
Doing pretty good here. Pretty excited to see Booster 4. This is the big one, right? This is what we've been waiting for. We've been waiting years to see this. The first flight capable super heavy booster about to get onto the orbital launch pad, which is almost done being constructed. There's a lot of firsts going on here. And I mean, man, I'll be honest, I haven't been following things too closely the past few days. Seeing the launch mount with the launch table on top is weird but welcoming to see. Like, we're getting close.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Getting to be very, very exciting.
Yeah,
yes.
It's going to be fun, like over the next few months, next few weeks, watching everything happen as they get closer and closer to actually flying. I just cannot wait. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, because we've seen this orbital launch stand out there for quite some time, and to actually see a rocket on it is going to be awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, we've been watching it every day. For anybody who keeps up with our daily videos, those updates that Mary's filming from that whole platform slowly getting put together, and it's been together for a little while now.
Yeah. Work continues on the orbital launch mount.
Yeah, right.
That lift disconnecting the green hoses you were talking about earlier.
Hey, looking like.
Aha.
Or at least they're there. I don't know if they're disconnecting quite yet. They're certainly working on them.
Yeah, they're in the right vicinity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting that they're keeping the fueling ports on the outside of the booster like that, rather than like on the bottom like Starship. Like having extra things sticking out of the sides. Same with the COPVs. I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of questions about the COPVs, those black sort of cylindrical
Tanks, I guess.
tank. Yeah, I don't know what the most proper term to call them is, but yeah, those tanks there. We've had a lot of questions on that, and whether or not they're going to be inside. I don't know if any of you guys can speak to exactly what they do. Chris G had a great explanation for them earlier. So, okay, can we see if they're...
Yeah, yeah, it's hard to say. But those tanks...
My nose up to my monitor trying to see.
I've assumed that like tanks like that's sort of something that will eventually be moved on the inside, but I am not, I always like to say, I'm just a photographer, y'all. I'm a fan of space. I like to take pictures of this stuff, but I am not, I try to follow along. I saw Tim Dodd's video. I've actually watched it twice, so I've tried to absorb as much of the new information we have as possible.
Yeah, I only got to watch it in between the previous stream and then this one. I got to sneak in, and I wasn't able to watch it yesterday.
Yeah. It's very good, and Elon Musk gives a lot of new information, and and I'm not sure if Michael was joking or not, but I think he was half joking, half serious. He said that it's sort of required viewing for anybody on the stream because there's so much because there's so much new information that was given. There were a lot of questions that were answered with that video.
We all had homework last night.
Need to know their stuff.
Yeah.
I remember last night I compiled a whole, the thing takes up about the entire screen on a computer screen. I made a list of all the facts.
Yeah, I saw that, Ian. It was great.
Nice.
But,
yeah. So about these black tanks, do we know what is in those black tanks? Was that answered in the video and I didn't notice?
I don't think it was answered in the video. We've talked about it on stream a couple times. It's the COPV, and I will. Well, I can't remember what each of those. Yeah, I can't remember what each of those letters stands for.
It's carbon overwrapped pressure vessel.
Composite overwrapped.
Composite overwrapped.
Composite overwrapped.
Yeah,
Composite overwrapped pressure vessel.
Yeah.
And those are likely containing helium, which is not 100% certain, but likely because Starship is the Starship system, so it includes Super Heavy too, likely, are using helium to pressurize the tanks because they've been having little bits of issues with autogenous pressurization, using the Raptors to heat up oxygen and methane gas to pressurize the tanks. So they're using helium as like a sort of temporary solution while they get the whole vehicle working, and then they can come back to fix the little things to get it long-term cheaper and more reusable.
And helium is something that is used pretty commonly in rocketry, right?
Yes.
To pressurize as the fuel is sucked out and burned by the engines, you've got to replace that space above the fuel with something, and it's usually helium. And these days, like with normal, like Atlas and Falcon 9 and stuff like that, right?
Yep. And also it's important to keep tank pressures because on rockets like Starship 2, where you have relatively thin tank walls, like this is only 4 millimeter thick steel, it could hold itself up fine right now, but when you're launching with a fueled Starship and a payload on top, you're going through max Q, you've got aero forces, you need strong tanks, you need to keep pressure inside, just like with a soda can. If you have a full soda can that's completely sealed off, you can stand on it no problem, but once you open it and release the pressure inside, that thing is extremely weak and it can barely hold probably even a pound on top of it.
Right. Now, one of the things in the Tim Dodd video that I couldn't make out what Elon said, what the grid fins are made of. He said something paneling or what was it?
I thought it was just essentially like a sheet metal. Is that correct? Or like it's just like a proof of concept, minimum viable. This is good enough for now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just plate steel. Yeah. That's what.
And yeah, we're seeing that approach of minimal viable product across the entire Starship system here. Like the Raptor vacs on Starship, those are like it's a great design, but like that's just like minimum, like what they can do easily, like relatively easily, without doing like major changes. Like same thing with you can see the COPVs on the outside; those probably won't be there long term. All that stuff, like the grid fins, everything is heavier than it should be, but it's just light enough to work in theory.
Sure. And those fins, he kept on calling them dinosaur bear traps. Like they're just huge once you actually see them on the ground. Well, once in the context of the entire booster, they look maybe a little bit smaller, but they are absolutely gigantic.
Yeah, and in 1 week ago, there was it was about a week ago. I don't know when it was exactly, but there was a lot of discussion in the space Twitter world about these grid fins sticking out permanently, and will that? And I would, if you have asked me, I would have said, oh, that's got to be just temporary for the first flight or whatever, and they'll eventually put the mechanism to fold those down. And what it sounds like now is they will be sticking out like that forever. And now that we've heard the explanation of why, the explanation is removing things you don't need. Because it just adds extra mass. You need a separate mechanism to fold those down and extend them back out. So if it's not going to harm your flight regime, then fine, leave them sticking out.
Steven, this looks like that green hose on the right side is now disconnected, best I can see. So I think they are disconnecting those two hoses, and hopefully we'll see a lift.
Yeah. Is it disconnected? I see something
Right?
flapping.
Was it because it was at the sort of right by
yeah.
that worker's head? There is where it had been.
It does look possibly disconnected, the right one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, I would love to see this thing get lifted up today.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be a sight to see.
We already have some new members coming in quick. We got Phil Mez and Lee Lasigo. Thank you guys very much for signing up for that monthly membership. It means a lot for us. It really helps us keep the lights on, keep us going, keep both these streams going, and also our 24/7 live stream.
Right. Yeah. And a couple of questions from some folks that have used the @NASASpaceflight tag so that we can see it and put it in the queue and try to answer them.
Yeah, if you have questions, do tag us. It's going to be a lot easier for us to see it.
Absolutely. Isaac Roth said, what is the rib structure at the top of the booster for? And that's a good question because I've wondered that myself. So thank you for asking that. I don't know, Ian, are you prepared to explain what that is?
I'll give it a shot. So the rib structure on top, it has a bunch of what are called stringers on the outside, and those are essentially little steel, I don't really know how to describe them, like little steel pieces that are external bracing. And what those are used to strengthen that section of the vehicle. Now, because that section doesn't have any tanks, and the tanks provide strength through their pressurization, you can't pressurize an empty area. You need to add extra support there to hold Starship, the weight of a fully fueled Starship, plus a payload on top of it. So they add those stringers on there, and you can actually see some stringers on the bottom too, right next to the workers. They put those there to give extra strength to the unpressurized sections, because you can't take advantage of the strength that pressurization of the tanks provides.
I think that was beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I was worried I might be putting you on the spot, but that was a beautiful explanation.
I mean, you can actually see right above the workers, you'll see sort of like dot lines going in vertical lines down. Those are internal stringers inside of Super Heavy. And that's because the bottom-most tank, even though it is pressurized and that provides a lot of strength, that bottom tank has to support the top tank and Starship. So just tank pressurization alone is not enough for the bottom tank, so they have to add even more bracing inside of it. So this thing is like beefed up.
Yeah.
Oh, Doss over here. He shared a definition of stringer for us. It's a part of the aircraft fuselage and wing structure that that acts as a stiffener and assists the skin to carry direct loads in the direction of its length. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, there you go. Perfect. What else we have? Jared Miller has a question. When do you expect the launch to actually happen? That is a popular question that everybody would like to know. I mean, even the people within SpaceX would love to know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
And the answer is unknown. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen between now and then. Of course, one of those things is happening right now. B4 is being lifted onto the launch mount, and of course, S20 will have to be rolled down to the launch site and also placed on top. And then we'll have to see what becomes of the environmental assessment and see when SpaceX actually gets the go-ahead. And I would say that once they have the go-ahead, they'll do it as quickly as they can. I mean, they've got all the Raptors on there, and the vehicle will be stacked on the pad. It looks so good already. I could just imagine it sitting up there on the launch table.
I can't wait. Yeah.
That's going to be amazing.
More new members coming in. Mike Naneas, David Graper, Buster Jones, Clanatish. Thank you all for the new membership, the continued monthly support. Again. It really does do a lot for us.
Are there any questions that stand out to either of y'all that you want to get to? We've got a few queued up here.
I've got one here that I actually was looking at from Blank Iron, I believe that's how you pronounce that. They said, do Super Heavy and Starship have baffles to stop propellant slosh? And that's a good question. The answer is yes. Now we have seen videos from inside the tanks. I think they've shown very quickly on the live streams because it doesn't seem like they want to show them. But you can see sort of I'm not really sure how to describe them, but they just look like little sheets of metal sticking out from the sides of tanks, horizontally sticking out. And what those do, if the propellant starts sloshing in the tanks, so like say if you take a cup of water and you shake it around a bit, you'll see the water sloshing. Those kind of catch the propellant and stop it from sloshing around. So yes, at least in Starship and very likely in Super Heavy too, they do have those propellant baffles.
And sort of a real world comparison, what comes to mind for me, because I've worked in food service many years of my life, and there's lots of mopping involved, and a lot of times those mop buckets, they'll have the little baffles that are like halfway down the length of the mop bucket that keeps that water from sloshing and spilling out. So if you've ever mopped the floor at a restaurant or I don't know, like a school, or if you've ever done janitor work or anything like that, then it's the same sort of idea. Keep the liquid from sloshing too much.
Yep. And actually, it looks like we've had both green hoses. Actually, no, it looks like the left one is still.
The left one's still on. That right one does seem to be off, though.
Yeah, about a minute ago,
Yeah.
it looked like he was sort of struggling with getting it to become disconnected. I'm not sure. It looked like he was kind of tugging on it.
And in that regard, we had a question from Ryan S. asking how we get such crisp streaming coverage, and Jack Beyer is in the field. That's his camera that he's got pointed at the side of the booster right now. And it's him being there and being out in the weather, both him and married naturally, out there helping and getting everything set up.
Yeah, you could see
That we
it.
can see.
They're yeah, I don't know if it's just like it normally needs a lot of torque, or if it's something they're kind of like they're kind of like struggling with it.
Is this nominal or is Oh yeah, he's trying to get like enough torque on it. Looks like.
Yeah.
Well.
Hey, we're rooting for you.
Some new members coming in while we're waiting on those guys. MPA Dad 1, Adam Bull, and Ariza Lucas. Thank you all for the new memberships.
All right.
And then
let's
Chris
see.
Long.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and then Chris Long, just as I was finishing that.
Let's see. Let's hit a couple of these super chats before they get too old. Jalen Clark. So when this is a snarky question. So when Starship going to space, would that be a real space flight, unlike Jeff?
Like,
Look, suborbital space flight is space flight. So yeah, I get the meaning of the question though, and yes, it would be real space flight. But I personally, like when I talk to like my family and friends that don't really follow this stuff, I always tell them, it's suborbital and it's only a few minutes, but it is still space flight. You're going up into space. You get to see the curvature of the Earth. You're out of the atmosphere. Of course, we've talked before about how the atmosphere doesn't just stop at a hard line. It does sort of fade away the further away you get from the surface of the Earth. But technically you're in space. The only difference is you have to be going super fast around the Earth to maintain an orbit. And I know that the space station travels at roughly 17,500 miles per hour relative to the surface of the Earth. And that would be the difference with the New Shepard and Virgin Galactic Spaceship 2. They just basically went straight up, not perfectly straight up, but basically straight up, and got up into space, out of the atmosphere, and came on back down, and never imparted enough horizontal velocity to actually get into orbit. A good question, and thank you for the support. Let's see. Stardust89 said, file this under suggestion box. Any chance you guys could put an alert in the overlay on the Starbase live feed when you guys go live with commentary? That actually...
It is there now.
There's a pin comment, but I don't know. Did we put something on the overlay?
Oh, on an overlay. Oh, excuse me. No, yeah. So it's a pinned comment.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That is not hard to do. So,
yeah, sometimes
thank you.
probably people might not check the pinned comments. I know sometimes if I'm like watching on my phone, I turn off the chat because it fills up the screen when you turn your phone sideways.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yes, I can understand how sometimes people might not catch the pinned comment. So yeah, maybe having Just putting like a little alert on there, just maybe something small that just denotes that we're actually in the middle of a commentary stream as well. What's he doing? He's pulling on something. They're still working on the hose. He's shaking his head.
Persuade it.
Yeah, where's the what do you call it? The persuasion hammer?
The persuader.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Soham Borad wanted to say, what is that red thing on the launch integration tower? What are we?
I think that is. You can't see it from this angle, I don't think, unless it's been moved. But there looked like a sort of shroud that we'll sometimes see whenever they're doing any kind of welding or anything. And I think it's mostly just from weather, was what we were saying before.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it's referring to, because I was listening on the way back from dropping my friend off from the airport, but I wasn't watching because I am a responsible driver. I was only listening.
No tank watching and driving.
Yeah, exactly. You can tank listen and drive, but no tank watch and drive. It's like listening to a podcast or something. And actually, whenever I left town to head towards Boca Chica, that was the day that they were. Oh, what? They were doing something. I think it might have been a tower segment being lifted, and that was good pod for as far as I'm concerned. Like listening to everybody talk about what was going on, it helped keep me alert, and focused and entertained. So long trips, y'all. It's if there's a NSF live stream going on, definitely tune in. Just don't watch it, okay? Be safe out there.
Go through some of the questions we have here, if I could speak.
Yeah, all kinds.
We've got a question here from Akshay asking, will the first booster... I cannot talk today. Will the first Booster 4 test launch include Starship plus Booster 4 or just the booster? Now, that's a good question. So previously in the past, we heard, I think it was like 6 months ago, maybe a year ago, Elon said they were planning to do booster-only test launches. But it seems that those plans have changed because the issue with doing a booster-only test flight, first off, you have that very blunt and flat upper end of the booster. So you already have an aerodynamic issue going against you. But also, how do you get it back? So the boosters don't have landing legs, and I guess you could just do an expendable launch if you wanted to, but SpaceX is going pedal to the metal to get to orbit, or into near orbit sometime soon-ish, ? So expending a booster that is flight capable for an orbital flight, how much data are you going to get from that you could also get from an orbital test flight? So like, why not take that extra step, take a little extra risk, but for extra possible reward? So I think that's the main issue, or the main question right now. And that's why we believe they're not going to be doing a booster only test flight. But good question there.
Yep.
Actually, I think we were sort of postulating that we could see Starship 20 being stacked on top of the booster even this week, I think is what we're sort of postulating. Now, that's not anything that we know. It's just sort of the rate that they're going at. It's already been stacked now in high bay, or is stacking in high bay, just immediately after Booster 4 had actually gotten rolled out.
Yeah, hopefully they will stack it soon. I mean, like it seems like they're almost done in the high bay, or finishing up in the high bay. So maybe they can get it out in a few days. That would be pretty interesting, I think. Pretty impressive too.
Yeah, that's quite the pace.
And getting pretty close on the heat tiles too. It's almost completely black on the one side. There's a few spaces like sort of in I don't know, like the creases, like close to the flaps and stuff that are still where you can still see through, and there's no tiles there, but it's starting to really look like the renders.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And tonight, because I do tile counting, I count the individual tiles because I hate myself. I'm going to start the tile count for Ship 20 and hopefully have a number. Because I work with another Twitter user, Boca Charts. They do a lot of information, statistics about the whole site, and we do tile counting together. And we've counted, there's about 862 tiles per aft flap. So we're that far in with it.
Wow. So you just all like kind of go into your own little corner and like count it yourself, and then come together and see if you came up with the same amount.
Yeah, we have tricks to make it faster. I don't want to reveal our secrets, but
Right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
but
And by the
yeah.
way, y'all may recognize Ian from the weekly Starbase update videos that we put out. Those are always really cool. Like if maybe you didn't catch every second of the dailies or something like that, or there's just so much coming out that it's hard to keep it all in your brain. At the end of each week, we put out a kind of a weekly summary video, and also Chris Bergen has been putting out a weekly article. So if you prefer the reading or you prefer the video, you have your choices. Or as I like to do, just read them both or watch them and read them both. Because it is moving at such a fast pace, it is very difficult to keep up with it, and especially if you follow just spaceflight things in general, it's sometimes hard to keep it all in your brain. But we're doing what we can to kind of, I don't know, compile it all and simplify it, but not too much. Try to keep the details in there, and that way everybody kind of knows at least what we know to keep going and know what to expect. At least from what we know at the time.
Yeah, and I'll be looking to actually do, if my time allows, to do a weekly video this week, but we'll see what's going on and if it would be too much in vain to go from reading or recording the video to 2 days later publishing it. Like, how old will that information be? So we'll have to.
Yeah.
That's one of the things we can't. I can't just throw video at the editor, be like, get this finished in an hour. We're publishing it at midnight tonight. we can't do that. So it's like I record them Friday or Saturday night. They get edited on Sunday and uploaded on Monday. So by then we're working with 2-day-old information. So by then things could have changed so much, and it's so infuriating and funny at the same time to see things change.
and it is like, because I was there for a week, and the big thing I think that I got to see constructed was the top tower segment. So that was pretty cool. I was there for the first pillar, and was there until till the Sunday after that happened, and come to find out, it was basically finished. And on my way home, I was able to listen to our stream of them lifting it, and I got to tell you, I was kind of bummed out that I got to watch the whole thing be constructed and did not get to see it lifted on top. There's a lot of reasons that I'm like, man, I wish I was still there. But there's lots of other things to cover back here on the Space Coast, like Starliner, possibly. That was the whole thing. I wanted to be back in time for Starliner, and well, unfortunately, we're still waiting on Starliner, but we'll keep you posted on that one.
Some new memberships coming in. Bill West and Jukes, thank you both very, very much. Let's see, from Ticonderoga asking why they're splashing the Starship 20 and not landing it. I get they don't need to. That information, that the test itself isn't for that. It's just as proof of concept for the booster. So they're just going to splash down.
And I think there might, and correct me, anybody that is there, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think some of it might also be that in order to land back at Boca Chica, you would be flying over land and coming in, for the first time in that configuration, doing the belly flop. Obviously, they've done the suborbital belly flop maneuver, but I think maybe they want to take a little time and get some data from the first orbital re-entry before they try flying it over land, near populated areas.
It's safer, yeah.
So to me, it makes perfect sense. It's a bummer when you first heard that they're both going into the drink. I was like, but when you just think about it for a second, it's like, okay, well, SpaceX likes to move at a breakneck pace, but you got to keep safety in mind, and you don't want to put anybody in danger. And they can get data from Starship as it's doing its belly flop thing from orbital speeds, and I think that's super important.
I'm seeing now, looks like the other hose looking like it is now disconnected. They got it. But also it looks like they removed sort of a piece that was on there that's on the other side now. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like a connector or something.
Yeah.
And actually going along with that, a question here from Cameron saying, do we know what the hoses are? So the hoses are connected to, so when they roll out a booster or Starship, they have to keep it pressurized and keep cool, dry air flowing into it, because you don't want to get anything into your propellant tanks, and you want to keep it a little pressurized, not at flight pressure, but slightly pressurized, just to give a little extra strength, because it doesn't hurt to have some extra margin. And so those hoses are connected into the propellant load lines, which connect directly into the tanks themselves, and from there they sort of quote unquote fuel the tanks, but with compressed air to pressurize the tanks and keep it more rigid. So that's the reason that the hoses are there. And they also have similar systems on Ship 15 or SN 15 and Ship 16 in the display site, just to keep them pressurized and strengthen them against storms and wind and stuff. But it looks like they are unhooking those hoses, which is a great sign that a lift is going to be coming up momentarily. So we'll wait here and see when exactly that's going to start.
Yeah, this morning we had a notification. They cleared everyone out saying, hey, we're going to lift this in about a half an hour. And just soon after we saw that big white lift going up to the top to check something out. I'm not sure exactly what they had detected that delayed things, but this is now farther than we had gotten earlier today. So hopefully we'll see a lift pretty soon.
Yeah, I imagine we'll see these the people lifters back away first,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Probably, and at least have these folks down off of the stand that it's sitting on. I would think, but maybe not. Here's a question from Reghart Jordan. Why not use plain oxygen and not liquid in the COPVs? Then they won't have the possibility of helium ingestion in the Raptors. Is it a density thing where helium is not as dense or something?
I think so. I think one of the main things is, first off, helium is inert. So like no matter what you do to helium, it will pretty much never react with anything. It's a noble gas,
Yeah,
like for
it's
any
a stable
chemistry
molecule.
nerds. Yeah. And also the issue, you could do oxygen, I guess, if you wanted to, but you also run into the issue of how do you pressurize your methane tanks? If you load oxygen into your methane tanks, you have created a bomb. If there is a spark, if there is any extra heat or anything like that, your methane tank is just like a fraction of a second away from just literally detonating. So you want to deal with something like helium or nitrogen that won't react. And I think nitrogen has the issue. I don't quote me on this. I believe this is a thing though, that it can sort of dissolve into the oxygen and then sort of like pollute, or I don't know what the correct word is, but it dissolves into the oxygen and it can make it less pure. I'm not 100% certain on that though. But yeah, so helium is the preferred one because yes, it is expensive and yes, it is hard to find. Like you pretty much can't find helium on Mars. It's tough to find it on the moon. So that's why they're really trying to make it a short-term solution as they sort of get Raptor and the autogenous pressurization up to speed and working.
Interesting. It seems like it would be really hard to do that autogenous thing, just because you've got to heat up just the right amount of fuel and then pump it back up towards the top, or do they just release it right there and let it bubble up towards the top? How do they get the gaseous methane back up there to the top, and then how do they regulate it? Like it's all so I know it's computers and computers are fast, but it blows my mind that it's even possible to do that. Like we need just this much of extra gas up there in the top to fill the empty space, and not too much because you don't want to overpressure either.
Yeah, Raptor it's insane to think about it. Like how you regulate. Someone posted a diagram, I think, on like r/SpaceX Lounge or something, and it showed like all the pipes that could be going into Raptor, and there had to be like at least 50 or so different lines going in. Like, how do you regulate all that? How do you design that and think like, okay, we need this oxygen line here, this methane line here, this helium line here? How do you just go through that? And I think the worst part is I'm actually planning to go into engine testing as a career, so I'm gonna need to have to learn to do that.
Oh
So-
yeah.
What's wild to think about too is in that Tim Dodd video, Elon was talking about sort of optimizing the manufacturing process. So all those lines, while it certainly looks very complicated, are essentially as easy to make as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, they're only there because they have to be. If they're following the steps, then they're only there because they have to be.
Mm-hmm. And again, it goes back to what we said at the beginning. This is all a minimum viable product. So they're just throwing stuff together that is very likely going to work rather than taking time perfecting all the little details on something that should in theory work. So they're just trying to get something that can get the Starship system to be working. And then from there, they can fine tune and improve the little pieces of the system to make it a more capable and more a cheaper and a more reusable system overall. But this is just throwing stuff at the wall that they think will stick just to get some data out of it.
Just look at how different Starship looks now compared to Starhopper.
Oh, right.
First time we ever saw a picture of Starhopper. Remember, at one time it had a nose cone, but the first time we ever saw Starhopper with its fixed legs poking out, they change just constantly, just all the time. They're always optimizing. So you, especially at this stage of the game, you can't really take for granted that what you're seeing now is what the ultimate appearance will be.
Yeah, exactly. And this, like, we know that they do sort of block up. They're not called specifically blocks, so you don't have like Starship Block 5 or whatever. But they do have sort of large upgrades. So you had like SN 8, 9, 10, 11 or SN 8 through 14 had like one certain set of upgrades, then 15 through 19 another set. So we see them do large chunks of upgrades over time. And I forget when the next one is scheduled for, but yeah, we see them do major changes over time. Like we've seen with SN20 or Ship 20, they have the Raptor vacuums, they have full heat shield tiles, they have narrower flaps on it. So it's a much more refined design over time, and we're seeing them get closer and closer to operational, even though we won't see operational for a few years from now. But it's great to see, because it's such an open, it's so open to the public. We can see everything going on. It's great to see their design process and their sort of I'm not really sure what to call it, but just their iteration over time.
Yeah.
So visible. It's so neat because, I mean, I love engineering. I'll stop talking soon. I'm talking a lot here. But
You're good. Well, I got one more for you. I got one more question for you. So we got a super chat from Joe Prestritto. Said, pool time, what's the over-under on the total tile count on Starship 20?
I'll get back to you in a while. Soon. I've seen estimates, people estimating around 5,000 tiles, but then again, they don't have the full tiles. There's still a lot of open gaps right now. Sure. So we'll have to see. I'll count what's on there right now tonight, and then once they roll out to the pad or whatever, and they have a full thing of tiles, then count it again. But
yeah. And some of those gaps oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, looks like we're seeing a lot of movement from all of those lifts.
Yeah.
They might be backing off and backing away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looks like they have the lead lines there. Are those what the red things are? Or are those hold downs?
There's some discussion on that in the back channels. The best we know, those are lead lines.
Gotcha. Because once they have the lead lines, that's one of the last indicators that they are about to lift.
Yeah, taglines.
Excuse me, you're right.
There we go.
Taglines. Yep, my mistake.
Oh man,
it's gonna be cynical
cool.
Michigan, talking engineering guy. Adam Smith with the new membership. Thank you very, very much, Adam.
And Jukes over here with the super chat. The orbital launch mount doesn't look like it's complete yet. What are they going to lift the booster onto? It is going to be lifted onto that mount, but I think I know what you're talking about because it still has like some scaffolding around it, right?
Yeah, so it looks like they're very obviously not done because they don't have like the fuel lines and things like that hooked up. It seems like they just have, again, we keep using this word a lot. It seems like they have a minimum viable product for the orbital launch mount just to stack a booster on top. It doesn't seem like they have any sort of fueling lines. Maybe they have electrical hookups. They probably have like data hookups and things like that, but nothing complex. There's no fueling, nothing like that. So they can stack it on there, but right now it's just a glorified display stand.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that I'm sure there's still work to do on that launch table. It's interesting that they're going to go ahead and put the booster up there and then, I'm assuming, continue work on it. And that was another one of the things that I kind of got to see some work being done on while I was in Boca Chica, and because it was back at the production site, and I didn't. I'll be honest. I think Mary had to tell me a couple times like what it was. I'm like, what is this? It's obviously circular shaped, and you're gonna put something on it, and like no, that's what's gonna go on top of the launch mount. It's the launch table, and then according to Elon, it's like stage 0, and it's as complicated, if not more, than the whole launch system itself.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like the engineering that goes into launch sites, and I I was about to say, I love launch pads. I just love everything about rockets. I'll just say that straight up. I love learning about how they work together. But yeah, it's so neat to see because a launch pad has to support not only obviously the weight and like the flame and the fire from the engines, but also has to support data connections, all the gas pressurization. So this will have to load helium, methane, oxygen. It'll have to charge the batteries. It'll have to relay data. It'll have to support it, keep it stable, keep lightning away from it. It's so much that has to go into that people often overlook.
Yeah.
And
let go when it's time.
Yeah, exactly. Let go and not hold on.
Yeah. Take the launch mount with it. See, Jonathan Bout said, won't the steel get very hot on re-entry? Now, if you're talking about Starship, it will have heat tiles in the windward-facing direction. And yeah, steel can get pretty hot. And wasn't that part of the reason that they chose steel, because it has a really high, or stainless steel to be more precise, because it has a really high melting.
And also it's relatively inexpensive.
Oh, that's true. That too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's easy and relatively cheap to work too, because if there's an issue with it, just weld it. If there's like a dent in it, just hammer it. Things like that. And there's already a lot of stainless. You can probably buy stainless steel, I guess, working like tools and things like that cheaper than you could buy carbon fiber equipment. But yeah, so the steel. So on Super Heavy, Elon has said they're not going to do an entry burn, which is where they ignite the engines for a short duration to slow it down before it hits the dense parts of the atmosphere, so it doesn't burn up. Like with Falcon 9, that would be an issue. It would burn up because it's made of aluminum. But with Super Heavy, it's made of steel, which has a much higher melting point, about twice the melting point of aluminum, very high. So it can withstand a lot more heat. So they're eliminating entry burn. That's going to save a little bit of propellant, make it a little more capable of getting things to orbit, and that's one of the extra benefits that you get of using stainless steel.
It's still interesting that, so the stainless steel can take it, but you still got those Raptors down there with these, they've got some, these big lines, and some are really, really tiny lines, and they're going to be going, taking the brunt of it, right? They're going to go right foot first into the atmosphere, or I guess face first if you're a Raptor. And it is still kind of impressive that they don't need the entry burn, because part of the things that that the entry burn does is it sort of creates like an envelope around Falcon 9 as it's coming in, and so it's slowing it down, and it's also pushing the airflow sort of away and around Falcon 9 as it's going through the re-entry burn. So not needing Super Heavy to do that is really interesting. Of course, it does have a larger area that's going to be facing the wind, so I imagine I was going to say it'll decelerate faster, but it's much heavier. So I'm not sure how that works out. I did not take physics.
Sort of a follow-up question with that from Martian Enclave just a second ago in chat, asking about the COPV on entry, those little black boxes that we see on the outside. That should be protected by the envelope that those engines are going to be producing.
Gotcha.
But that is a good question.
And those COPVs on the outside will probably not be on the outside when it comes to full operation mode.
Yep.
All right, looking like we've got so those red lines, those are hold downs. We have but it looks like they are now being disconnected on our right side there.
Yeah, so it looks like those were holding it
disconnected.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, by means.
I was just saying, so those were holding it down on while it was while they were working on it, so it wouldn't tip over or anything like that. And disconnecting them shows that they are getting ready to lift it. So that's another great sign that we're getting very, very close to a lift.
Well, then let's keep watching for daylight, and let's try to run some of these super chats while we can. We'll stop if we start to see some daylight there. Samsung 0804 said, could Starship Super Heavy be built out of a few giant sheets, or maybe even a single sheet, to remove any chance of welding weak points? That is a good question. You know, that they've gone with making individual rings and then stacking those rings and welding them. Is it possible? Is it even possible to make a sheet of stainless steel that's big enough to just, you know, bend over and make into one large cylinder?
That would be very difficult, because how do you make that sheet of stainless steel?
And
How do
also
you
transport it.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I
I'll
don't-
tell you this about as far as like transporting it. Yeah, that reminds me. I was out there photographing the sunrise over there by the Starbase sign one day, and this semi truck pulls up with a long flatbed, and there's one item on it, and it's a cylinder of something. And I found out later from asking Mary, she said, well, that's how they deliver the rolls of steel, because they're so heavy they can only put one on a single flatbed trailer, and then that's how they ship it, because they're just that heavy that a semi wouldn't be able to carry anymore because of the sheer weight of it.
Yeah, so I was just going to say that from the dailies, we see those huge rolls of sheet metal come through just constantly. They're constantly getting more and more delivered.
Yeah.
But it's a huge flatbed with one roll in the middle.
Yeah, it's crazy to see, because you're like, that's a big waste of space. They could have put like 5 or so of those on there.
Yeah, it looks like it's like they're underloading it, but it is not.
Yeah, you'd
it's
snap
at
the
max.
trailer.
Yeah. Matthew Harris with a super chat says, I saw with past tests, propellant has been loaded into the bottom of the vehicle, but now we have the tower. Is it likely fuel will enter the vehicle from somewhere higher up, i.e. through the arm? Well, I think, yeah, go ahead. I think it's supposed to be from the base, right?
I don't think so. I remember hearing that they were planning on doing fueling it through the booster. I think that was like the plan for a while. But it looks like through some of the pictures that they do have fuel umbilicals or some sort of umbilicals on the side of the ship. So whether it's a thing of now they're fueling through the side, or maybe that's just an electrical connection or pressure release or something like that. That I'm not entirely sure, but it looks like there could be the possibility of fueling through the side of the booster. Of the side of the ship.
Okay.
But we'll have to see what they want to do.
Yeah, and maybe a temporary thing, because they are still working on. They have a I'm not sure the proper term, like a development contract with NASA to work on in-orbit refueling, and that's going to be part of the having it fuel through the booster. Was one of the ideas was, well, if we're going to be set up for in-orbit refueling, then we'll have those lines already, and we'll just shoot it up through the booster and into the ship. But maybe they're not quite ready for that, and maybe just in the for temporary, they'll go ahead and fuel it up at the actual Starship itself.
Yeah, exactly. And like Elon was saying a lot in the Tim Dodd interview and the tour, he wants to delete as many parts as possible. So even though it doesn't seem like a huge thing, but just like a side fueling port, if you really don't need it, and if you can really fuel through the booster, that's one part you don't need to build. That makes it, say, a few thousand or a few tens of thousands cheaper, and it removes one part from the assembly line, and it makes it a little easier. So again, it could be a stopgap solution, or it could be something that they really need to do for safety or for quickly fueling the vehicle, something like that.
And the fewer the fewer components that you have, the fewer points of potential failure that you have.
Exactly.
Yep. And we have another question from Pete Laurie. Hi, everyone. Loving the coverage you're putting out. What do you all think the mystery structure is at the production yard? Big love from the UK. Yeah.
Whenever it comes up in the dailies, I always ask everyone, it's like, hey, do we know what this is yet? We're not sure. It's just mystery structure.
Yeah.
Work continues on the mystery structure.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it always says on the overlay. Work continues on mystery structure.
We need a shirt that just says "Work continues on blank line."
Oh, I like it. That's actually a good idea.
Yeah.
Somebody take a note.
Yeah, speculate. Oh, I mean, it's circular. We know it's circular.
Mm-hmm.
And we know starships are circular, so who knows? It's something to do with Starship, and it's at Starbase, so we know it has something to do with that.
We could guess all day long, but we're not going to label it until we know what it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, and let's see, Ceritus, were those green hoses and blue vessels pressurizing booster for transport? Blue vessels.
I mean, those hoses, I believe.
Yeah.
Were those pressurizing for transport?
Yes, those do keep the booster pressurized. Like I said before, not to flight pressure, so it's not like it's at like 6 bar or something like that. But they keep it slightly pressurized just to give it a little extra strength, a little extra rigidity, just to keep it a little safer while you're transporting.
Right. Josh Mendelson, if all goes well with Ship 20 and Booster 4, when do we get to see a booster catch? I hope before 2022. That's a tall order there. Because as we know, this one's going into the drink. So what are the chances that they'll be ready for a booster catch attempt? Do we have... we need arms, first of all. We're going to need some arms on that tower.
Yep.
And I don't see them.
Yeah, I know. Not anytime soon. I don't know that... I don't know if we have any idea of when that timeline will be. Knowing SpaceX, as soon as they possibly can, and maybe if not sooner.
Yeah, because just because the hardware isn't there right now doesn't mean they can't whip it together in a couple weeks and throw it up there. I mean, we've seen it happen.
Things go up very, very quickly.
All right, let's go. MOS 3. So you think they'll be doing a soft water landing like they did with Falcon 9? Still would be useful to at least attempt an orbital landing, right? That would be my assumption. I'm not tied in, and I don't know what their plans are, but I would assume that much like the early days of Falcon 9 learning how to land, they would land on the surface of the ocean as if there was a platform there. And we've seen the video. It was pretty garbled video that they got, but actually SpaceX put out a request for some help, and if I remember right, some members of the NSF forums helped with putting that video back together where you could actually see what was going on. Am I right? Am I lying about that? I thought I heard somebody say that.
Yeah, that was an early Falcon 9 landing. Yep, they had a corrupted video, and forum users patched it back together.
Which is incredible. I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'll go into Adobe Premiere and be like, okay, where's the ungarble button?
Is it like a plugin or something?
Right, yeah. So, one could assume that they'll probably attempt, a landing as if it was on a platform or on land or something, and just to see how it performs, coming out of the belly flop and see if they can do a soft touchdown on the surface of the water. Possibly. So hopefully they do, and I would assume that we'll be able to know. I would think that I think we'll get as much video as SpaceX is able to provide, because just judging off past experience with SpaceX, they do like to get the community hyped up and show as much as they possibly can. Musical Wolves, hey, Musical Wolves in here, one of our regular people here. Would it be better to use liquid ozone instead of LOX? Ooh. I don't know. What does that mean?
I feel like so ozone, I don't know if you guys know, so liquid oxygen uses O2, which is 2 oxygen atoms bonded together. Ozone is O3, so 3 oxygen atoms. So it's theoretically denser, but ozone is difficult to work with and it's toxic. Also, I believe it really doesn't like, ozone doesn't really like being, it's not really stable, I don't believe.
It's unstable, and we've certainly been talking about that in the sort of zeitgeist just generally, that ozone, it will react.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you know more about ozone, which I don't really.
Yeah, well, I mean, insofar as that we were talking about ozone reacting with everything that we're putting into the atmosphere, and That's all part of it. And that's one of the reasons it does make it, because it's unstable. Certainly more unstable than oxygen.
Yeah.
All right. Mark Carline, will they reuse the Raptors even if they've been in the salty water? I don't think so.
I don't think that they're planning on rescuing them. I think that they just go splash.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
I'd put money that they probably wouldn't want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because-
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, once something hits salt water, or like especially a delicate component, like Raptor is one of the most advanced engines ever made. If you have salt water in there and it's to corrode something even a little bit, like even just a single bolt, like corrosion of a single bolt is how the first Falcon 1 failed. So like you don't want to screw around, and the corrosion of the bolt on the Falcon 1 was due to salty air by being up by the ocean. So I doubt they would want to do, especially since they have the Raptor production line getting up. Like they can just okay, let's just get some more engines. Like yeah.
Yeah, and that's another one of those things. It's like what, 3 days after I left Boca Chica, it was like a conga line of Raptors coming into Starbase. Like, oh man,
Many.
Yeah. Oh, there were people down there seeing them, and I'm just like, oh, I want to see these. But I think I got to see the best one. I got to see the R2B2.
R2B2, yeah.
Let's see, Dr. Pork. Do you think we could see Starship from Earth while it orbits the planet at night if the sun is reflecting off it like the ISS sometimes? Love the streams. Let's hope for a good first orbital launch. That is a great question, and I'm going to take a stab at it and say yes. It's possible. If you're on the right part of the Earth at the right time, I think that would be possible, right? Isn't it reflective enough and big enough?
Yeah, I would think so, because I mean, yeah, you can see the space station easily at night.
Yeah,
easily.
And yeah, Starship. So I remember, this is a little off tangent, but the old Iridium satellites, they used to have a flat, it was like a very shiny antenna on it, a flat antenna. And if you were in the right place at the right time when the right satellite was flying over, you would get what's called an Iridium flare, where the satellite would glow so brightly it would almost hurt to look at. And it would be so cool, because I found so many of those by accident. I just see a satellite going across the sky, and it used to get so bright, like brighter than Venus, which is already one of the brightest things in the sky. That was cool to see. So if we could see something like that with Starship, that would be amazing.
Yeah, the day that I found out about Iridium flares, I saw one. I used to live in Nashville for a few years, and they had these star parties, right? Like, where outside of town you go and you meet up with amateur astronomers, and by amateur, that's in air quotes, because these folks really know their stuff, and they like have their own homemade telescopes that are like huge, like 2-meter telescopes, crazy stuff. But one of the guys was telling me about Iridium flares. He's like, oh, well, we have an Iridium flare about to happen in just a few minutes. I'm like, well, I don't know what this is. And he explained to me just like you just did, Ian. And then sure enough, whenever it happened, you could see your shadow on the ground. It was so bright. And they're not all this bright. It all depended on what time of day and what the angle and everything was. But certain ones, like, I couldn't believe it. You could see not a bright one, but you know how, like, during a full moon, like, you'll see your shadow on the ground. It was sort of like that. And it was just, and then I just started chasing them. Like, I got this app on my phone that would tell me when the Iridium flares were coming, and go try to set up somewhere. And I learned how to photograph those, and that was a really cool thing. I really miss Iridium flares being a thing.
So is it a matter of how reflective it is that we're talking about, if you'd be able to see it? Because the Starship itself will have those TPS tiles, which I can imagine would not be very reflective.
Right. Yeah, it depends on, I guess, which way it's rotated.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
And also, I'm wondering too, because I have a telescope. I do astrophotography with a camera on it, and you can see during the right space station flyovers, when it's in the right orientation, I take my telescope and I go outside and I could photograph the space station. I'm wondering how a Starship would look like. Will you see like the outline of Starship? I think that would be incredible to photograph that.
Oh man, oh, that'd be so cool. Yeah, because people have photographed Dragon chasing the space. People have gotten some great images of the space station. Like, incredible. Like, even through the atmospheric haze, and it's pretty incredible what you can do if you know right where to look and have the right gear and know your gear well, of course.
Yep. I mean, on my Twitter, I posted very recently. I got a picture of the ISS. You can see the Japanese laboratory, the European laboratory, and the Nauka module sticking off the side.
That's
so cool.
remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's neat. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
And you're at Ian Pineapple, right?
Yeah, at Ian Pineapple.
Okay.
I'm getting a lot more into astrophotography, so there'll be more photos coming up.
Wonderful. That's hard. I've not. I'm a photographer as well, and I've not actually delved into that at all. That is.
Yeah, it
different
can be
animal.
tedious.
The best I ever did was one time I've got a reflector telescope, so it's one where it's like a canister with the eyepiece sticking out the side instead of like being towards the back of it.
Yep.
And I just loosened the grips on the tripod and just held the back of the telescope and just had my eye up to the eyepiece, and I saw the space station coming by, and I just quickly like angled it, and I was able to find it for like 2 seconds where I could actually see it with my eyes. I wasn't able to photograph it or anything, but it was pretty cool seeing the space station, the actual shape of it, instead of just like a bright dot, but being able to actually see the shape of the space station flying over through a telescope. So y'all can do that if you have access to a telescope. You can if you're diligent and you really want it, you could see the space station flying over, like not just the bright light, but actually see it. Let's see. Yeah, go ahead.
We're here with live videos from Boca Chica, Texas, of what is potentially maybe the Booster 4 lift onto the orbital launch platform. So it looks like, I'm not exactly sure what's happening, but it looks like people have kind of moved away from it. Maybe they're taking a break or something, or waiting for the wind to die down, but we should be coming up hopefully soon with them undoing those red hold down straps and then lifting the booster onto the launch mount. But we'll have to see what happens, and if they're taking a break or if they're waiting for the wind to die down or what exactly is going on now. But we'll be here with live coverage for that.
It could be a break. We had just seen crews all around the bottom there, and we're not actually seeing anybody from our angle now anymore.
Yeah, how long ago did they walk away? I've been over here looking at the question queue.
Not terribly long, but
yeah, maybe 5 minutes.
Yep, so maybe just convening to do a meeting or a lunch break or something, or a shift change, hopefully.
Yeah, and in the meantime, let's see. I want to thank Hazard the Dutch Angle Dragon for becoming a new member. We appreciate that monthly support. And then Kieran says, excellent coverage as always. Hope you have a good chance of getting Elon on NSF Live one Saturday before this launches. Yeah, well, wouldn't that be something? Get some more questions answered. Man, that'd be awesome. Let's see. Dale Kaufman, how many cranes are at the launch site? 15? I don't know. That's their guess. 15 is their guess.
There's a lot, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
We do have a list of them somewhere, but it's many, many cranes. Yeah.
If anyone wants to count them, be our guest.
Ian's too busy counting tiles.
Ugh.
Okay, Josh Palmer, any thoughts on how they'll disconnect the crane load spreader from S20 after stacking on B4? Man lifts do not go that high. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Huh. That's a good
Take it.
question.
Just kind of shake the rope.
So any thoughts on how they'll disconnect the crane load
I
spreader?
gotta chime in. I know my audio is going to be bad, but I get this question a lot. How do they disconnect the thing if it's so tall? Just custom order a taller man lift. I'm sure there's a company that'll be willing to build you a lift to your specifications if you need one that doesn't currently exist. It's a simple solution to it, but we get that question a lot. It's a good question. Just wanted to chime in. Bye.
I think Mary has the answer though.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Mary
I think she does
says a
have the answer.
basket from a crane. That makes sense to me.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
yeah. That makes sense.
yeah. There you go. Yeah, just get under the crane and they'll lift you right on up there.
Okay, that sounds about right then.
Yeah. All right.
That's not a job that I would sign up for, by the way. I don't think.
Oh, no.
I'll do like base jumping, but I don't know about having a basket up on a crane. Looks like we've got a lift. Speaking of baskets, a lift coming up to Booster 4 again.
Aha.
So they're still doing a little bit of work.
Yep, so it looks like they're coming back to do something here. Look, yeah, people are coming back all around, and oh, there's someone actually doing welding on the ground support equipment on the right.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, very cool. Don't look at it if you're standing there in real life, don't look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was there, they were working on that yellow structure, and I like to try to film them, welding and stuff. But it was like, I mean, when it's far away, you're not in too much danger of it burning your eyes out. But you get too close, and look at that, it's way too bright. Jack said he keeps looking at it. Don't look at it, Jack.
Yeah, welding's
looking
cool.
at the sun. Okay, let's see. Mewing Fugger. Will the engines or anything on the booster be salvageable at all after it lands / splashes in the ocean? And yeah, we did get this question a little earlier, and we're not expecting that to happen at all. We don't think they're going to recover any of it, to be honest. So that's really the simplest way to answer that. Musical Wolves has a question. Could Super Heavy launch other company test vehicles so other companies can launch bigger supply quantities? Well, the easy answer, I think, is absolutely, right?
I guess so.
Other company.
What do they mean by test vehicles? You mean like test
Mhm, yeah.
satellites?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe, or maybe they could launch the Dream Chaser on a test flight.
I guess you could. I mean, I'm wondering if they're meaning the Starship overall or just Super Heavy and put like another company's upper stage on top of that. I don't really know if SpaceX would want to put other companies' hardware on top of theirs.
You know what? You're
Other
right.
the companies would have to play very well with each other, which so far would be unprecedented.
Yeah, I think unless a company's like, hey, we'll give you $1 billion, like if Blue Origin said, we'll give you $1 billion to put New Glenn's second stage on top of Super Heavy, then maybe. But
Yeah, I guess I took it to mean like, it does say Super Heavy, and I should have paid closer attention to what I was actually reading. I was thinking like putting something in Starship and taking it up into orbit to do some testing.
Right.
Yeah,
quick,
I don't.
we've got, oh, sorry. I was going to say we have got some new members: Tobias Peterson, Mark Maloff, and Marco Andrini. Thank you very much all for the new membership.
Let's see, John Burford. When they stack S20, when they do their inspection at only the top of B4, or are they going to inspect the whole thing? I mean,
Well, I mean, I would imagine that they would inspect everything that they need to.
yeah,
Yeah.
They probably do a full inspection, before they do the stacking, and then I would think give it another once over and look for anything that piques
What's
their attention.
The white cord or cable, or hose even, that worker currently has now. I didn't see it a moment ago, and I had my head in the questions again.
could that be a tagline they're attaching?
Could be.
I'm not sure.
It
Or
does
maybe that
just look
could-
like a rope, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. The hold down cables are still in place though, so I think they want to
yeah.
remove those.
And certainly before
Yeah.
any lift happens, I was curious if we had any.
Mary
any
says, oops, sorry, I just said Mary said here in the back channel that they she saw a guy throw a tagline, so they are hooking those up.
Okay,
That's
great.
what we saw, yeah.
Excellent. That is progress, folks.
That is a very good sign.
Yes. All right. It's Jacob Palamaki says, is Booster 4 with 29 Raptors more or less powerful than Saturn V?
Much more powerful in terms of thrust. This booster right here, this thing we're looking at right now, is the most powerful rocket ever assembled in terms of thrust alone. So that beat the Soviet N-1 rocket. So yeah, right. This is #1 most powerful in terms of thrust rocket ever, which is pretty cool. I think
That's fantastic. Yeah.
very impressive too that they've managed to design this. Now, whether or not the paddle passed the tests, that's a different story. But the fact they've gotten it this far is unbelievable. And big kudos to the design team.
Yeah, and how quickly they threw all these Raptors in there. Like you would think that there'd be like, maybe a couple of days of, how do we do this just right? And I think I saw someone did the math, and it was roughly 30 minutes per Raptor to get those installed. Is that right?
Goodness.
Sounds about right. Yeah, I remember before, like when it would be a whole night operation just to get one installed on like SN5 and stuff.
Well,
but
if you have enough crew, plausibly you could have, like, you don't need to install them one at a time. But it's still just a breakneck speed.
yeah,
We've got a couple questions about what the tagline is. The tagline is essentially just to stabilize a load as it's being lifted from the ground.
Yeah. So if you want the booster to kind of come a little bit more this way or that way, then you can actually do that just with your hands. Like, it is super heavy, but you can impart some amount of force and get
It is super heavy.
Yeah, literally. Bada boom. But yeah, it's as simple as that. And we've seen that over here in Port Canaveral with Falcon 9. We see whenever they're lifting it off of course, I Still Love You, or Just Read the Instructions, and soon A Shortfall of Gravitas. They'll have these taglines coming down from the base, and you can see them actually positioning it, and they'll use those taglines to position it just right to get onto the stand that they'll sometimes use on the ground. All right. Corb over here, using the @NASASpaceflight tag, says, I've noticed the grid fin configuration is different when compared to Falcon 9's configuration. Why is that? And yes, that is a common question. They're not perfectly symmetrical in a plus form. Like, they're not
They're not at perfect
equidistant.
90s.
Right, yeah. And doesn't that have to do with sort of providing a little bit more clearance from the tower, especially for when landing?
Yeah, I believe that's the answer that we have right now, where they, when it's going to be caught, that will give just a little bit more room for the tower itself as it's coming in.
Right. You don't want to collide with that towel. Don't collide with towels, towels or towers. Bring your towel, but don't collide with the tower.
oh, yeah, and yeah, you don't want to hit the tower, and plus it's also probably to give them. So I remember back when we thought they would be catching the booster literally with the grid fins. I remember there's a lot of people thinking like, oh, you just have the 2 grid fins, one arm will catch 2 fins, sort of, but that's not the case anymore.
Right.
Sorry, say that again.
So originally, people thought that the booster would be caught by the
Oh,
tower.
where it's caught. Oh, yeah. So there's these little load pins. It's actually what it's being lifted by right now. So it's already being lifted by that.
Yep.
Or, well, I guess not lifted, but will be lifted by that, I should say.
Yeah, and before we knew of those little pins or those little T-Rex arms, people thought they would literally use the grid fins as the catching mechanism.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. Oh, and there we go. We got a pan up. There we go.
Oh, thank you.
Hey.
I'm not sure which camera is which, but Jack or Mary, thank you for that.
I believe this is Jack now on that little, I don't know what best to call it.
Little grabber notch.
The nubbin. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just zooming right on in there. There you go.
I mean, I say that it looks small, but it is nearly human-sized.
Right.
Yeah. And that thing is probably very heavy too.
Yeah. And it's crazy. Like one of those on each side is going to be what the arms.
That's enough.
Yeah.
Yep. That's insane. Will be very fun to see the first catch attempt, and even just testing of the catch arms, just looking at an empty pad and the catch arms just flinging into action. That would be so cool to see.
Oh yeah. Let's see, Cindy Kosic. I'm sorry, I'm really bad saying names. Would they not try to static fire Ship 20 before stacking on Booster 4? I don't know. Do we know? Does anybody else know if we're expecting to see a static fire of S20?
Probably a safe bet.
Well, not before they stack it.
No.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
They won't static fire the ship by itself. You don't think?
Their goal right now is to stack the 2 vehicles as fast as possible. So
Oh.
they'll be stacked first, and then they will be taken apart again. Most likely, the Raptors will be removed. They'll do proof testing with thrust rams, and then the Raptors will be installed again.
Yep.
Okay. So we likely have like a whole static fire campaign coming, but not before we actually see the full Starship
It'll be stacked
vehicle on the
first.
pad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's so backwards, but yeah.
Yeah.
They do have Pad B set up with the thrust ram in place,
Okay.
so it's likely they'll move Ship 20 to there because Pad A is taken up by Booster 3 right now. So
Sure.
at some point, you're going to have every single launch pad taken up, all 3 now.
And someone said in chat they don't static fire Falcon 9's second stage. That is incorrect. They do static fire it at their McGregor, Texas test facility, but they do not static fire it at the launch pad.
And they static fire the engine like integrated with the second stage tank and everything.
Yeah,
Yes.
they have a new test site, in fact, built specifically to be able to quickly turn around second stages because they've got so many Starlink launches coming up.
Yeah, very cool.
When are we going to start getting our Starlink launches again? I haven't had a Starlink launch in like a month and a half.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I live like up in the Northeast, and I'm able to see Starlink and CRS launches from Florida because they hug the East Coast as they fly north.
Oh, okay.
So I love seeing the nighttime. So between like say 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. whenever there's a Starlink or CRS launch, I can see it from my backyard. So
Very
when they
cool.
do Starship Starlink launches from Florida, that would be very cool.
Oh man, yeah, that'll be super awesome.
I would definitely bring the telescope out for that. That would be so cool to see.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And
can't
now
wait.
we've got crews crawling all over Booster 4 once again. I don't know. Maybe they really did just take a break and have a quick meeting, and then now they're back. Or not sure why people weren't there, but they're all over it now. And looking like we've got more taglines attached.
Oh, very good. And I like this comment here. It's not really a question, but I like it. Dustin White said, "Happy anniversary to SpaceX for the flight of SN5 on this day a year ago." That is insane.
Yeah.
That's a crazy pace.
And that was just the short hop, right? That
Yep.
was sort of did the same flight like Starhopper did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much the exact same flight profile as Starhopper.
Very cool. Let's see. The hopeful astronaut says, "I'm a young rocket nerd. Do you have any advice for getting into the industry?"
Yeah, I pulled that one up for Ian, maybe.
Yeah, so I'm in college right now, so I might be of a little help, but not a ton of help. So I think one of the first things you'll need to do is figure out exactly what in the industry do you want to do. This is one of the things that I kind of pondered and thought about for a few years, and I'm still not 100% certain. So do you want to work on rocket engines? Do you want to work on assembling? Do you want to work on welding, electrician? What do you want to do specifically in the industry? Then from there, look into what degrees or what trades you can go into. And during like the first year, like see how you feel about the introductory class, about calculus if you're going into engineering, physics if you're going to engineering. How good are you with crafts and using your hands to build things if you're going into trades? And just really think a lot about what are your passions and what specifically do you want to do as a career for the rest of your life. It's a loaded question, so it's going to take a bit of time to answer, but I think that's the best place to start off. Look up some YouTube videos or ask questions of people who are in the industry, and I think that's the best path forward, in my opinion.
What a good answer.
Yeah, very good. And if you wanted to get into photography, pick up a camera and start doing it.
Oh yeah, there's SpaceX and NASA have their own photographers. That is absolutely a career path too. So if you like cameras, if you like plumbing and stuff like that, NASA needs plumbers, SpaceX needs plumbers. It's really, you can do almost anything in the industry. SpaceX needs chefs. They need people to cook foods.
Just a few years back, a friend of mine pointed out that SpaceX was hiring people for like their food service department, and like you could go, I guess, I don't know, work out on Kennedy Space Center or maybe out Hawthorne or something. But yeah, I mean, just about anything you can think of, there's a place for it in the space industry.
Yeah.
And if you apply yourself through school and, do the best you can so that you set yourself up for whatever you want to do in the future, you have to show that you're willing to put forth the effort.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, especially like aerospace engineering, mechanical engineering. It's third and fourth year are very, very tough. I'm about to go into my second year, so I don't have firsthand experience, but I've heard from people, yeah, third and fourth years are where things get really difficult, but I think it's going to be worth it.
All right, and let's see. Let's once again.
There's actually a wide view of the booster itself now. For people who are just joining us, you see the load spreader up at the top, the little triangle thing at the top of the booster. That is what the whole thing's about to be lifted with as soon as it seems that they're ready. At least I should say we believe it's going to be lifted soon. Every indication seems to be it going in that direction.
And hopefully just in time for lift, we have Chris Gebhardt rolling in here to jump in comms. Chris, are you there?
I am indeed. Can you hear me?
Yes, and welcome back for round
Perfection.
2.
I know. Round 2 after the storms.
Yeah.
And I think as Chris is entering, I think Ian has an out right now. Is that right, Ian? Are you leaving us now?
Yes, sadly, I will be leaving you, but it's been a fun hour and a half. So,
yeah,
thanks for having me here, and yeah, good to be talking with y'all too, and have fun, Chris.
It sounds good.
And again, Ian is very into astrophotography and posts a lot of stuff on Twitter, and it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, thank you very much, and see you guys all later. Have a good one.
Have a good
Later. All right, Chris, does this look any further along than where they made it earlier? Are we making progress?
Well, there are more workers, so yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say. There are more workers, so yes.
And presumably some taglines are attached.
Yeah, hopefully some taglines are attached there. Definitely, yes.
Yeah, so I think maybe the next big thing, I think we'll see these lines that are taut, right, on the screen right now. They're on the left and the right side, and I would presume that we'll see those go loose before the lift, right? Because they're like holding it down, right?
Yeah, that's our
assumption anyway.
What our assumption is right now.
Yeah, that's yeah.
It looks like the tagline is actually connected to the same connection point on the booster itself.
That's right. Yeah, it does look that way. All right. Well, let's see if we can't stump Chris. Hey, everybody! What? NASASpaceflight. Stump Chris. Hashtag. Stump Chris.
Roseanne DeVasto had a $20 super chat earlier, and then just now a $10 one with an actual question asking how heavy the load is. I think we had an estimate for that. Was that the 160 tons? Is that correct?
100 for how
for
the
booster 4. Yeah.
Oh, yes, 160 tons. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what Frankencrane there, that large multicolored crane that we have up there. That's what that guy will be lifting.
Yes.
Yeah, there's Frankencrane. And that's actually what the workers had been calling it. That's not even our name.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wondered if we ever actually heard one way or another if they actually call it that. That's awesome. See, David Willis coming in with a super chat. Any plans for a flame trench? I don't keep up enough, so this may be a dumb question. Well, there are no dumb questions here. But as it stands right now, what do we know?
As it stands right now, there are no plans for a flame trench. Elon says that might be a horrible decision, and we shall see. Are his exact words on that. So,
boy, okay.
Yeah, but right now there is no plan for a flame trench.
Yeah, and those GSC
and I should.
Yo, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I'm gonna preface that by saying there's no flame diverter at the Boca site. There is definitely a flame diverter under construction at the 39A launch site.
Right.
But that's mainly because you don't want all of the exhaust going in every single possible direction at 39A. You want to channel it away from all the rest of the pad systems,
Yeah.
and everything. So, just differences in what they need to protect, basically. But right now, no plans at Boca.
Yeah, and I would assume, or hope or expect, and I could be totally wrong, but there would be some sort of like a berm for protection around those GSE tanks, because there's going to be a lot of material shooting out from under Starship when it launches. So I would assume that they're going to want to try to protect those GSE tanks somehow, even if there's not a flame diverter.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Minimally have those cryo shells on there as well.
Yeah, and those cryo shells probably provide some level of protection as well, right? Do the cryo shells have anything in particular between the tank and itself, or do they pull a vacuum on that, or what? I know that they're there for insulation mostly, right? Is there anything in particular that's between there, or is it just having that gap to keep it kind of protected from the outside air that is enough to do the insulation? Is it just ambient air inside there, or what is it? Do we know?
I think there's nitrogen.
Okay. So you definitely don't want holes in it, because you don't want that nitrogen to end up leaking out. I guess that was the basis of the question. Like, is it okay if there's a hole in it? Like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's really there just to provide a barrier. But if they're filling it with nitrogen in between there, then I would think that they're gonna not want to have too many holes in the cryoshelf.
Negative. You are correct.
Yeah. Okay, let's try to not be so far behind on our super chat. Sorry, folks. We appreciate the support. We don't want to not thank you. That's for sure. So we're going to try to circle around when we can. Musical Wolves came in just with a comment. Win S20 swimsuit. Very nice.
Love it.
Let's see. Jukes said, so they won't recover this booster / ship at all. What a waste of Raptors.
Not really. These aren't the Raptors that are meant for the production models, for the operational models. So it's not that much of a waste as it seems.
Yeah, I think that Elon was saying that version 2 was going to be in production, or parts of it were going to be in production by the end of the month.
Or sooner, yeah. One of the two, yeah. But yeah, I saw something very similar this morning, as a matter of fact, while I was waking up and having coffee.
All right, Bruno Castro coming in with maybe a statement. I don't know if there's a question in there. I have a theory that the mystery structure might be something to test stage separation or max Q loads on the stage's seam. Thank you guys for the thorough coverage, and greetings from Brazil. That is an interesting theory.
I can see that with max Q, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen them do. Well, I mean, nose cone jail was a structural test article, so it would make sense.
For anybody who remembers nose cone jail. Oh,
I know, which seems like ages ago. But
it was what, a month, 2 months?
Probably something like that. Yeah. But no, there are rigs where you can test stage separation on the ground, and it'll simulate how the stages will separate in, the upper reaches of the atmosphere up there. So yeah, there are rigs that can do it. But yeah, some sort of pressure load system is probably what I'd go with first right now. We shall see as it takes shape, though, right?
Yeah, right.
$50 super chat coming in from Mike Smith asking, do you think that Booster 4 and or possibly SN15 or SN16 could be used to test out the catch arms so as to not damage any future rockets / starships? I don't know that they have any kind of mechanism to be caught by.
Right.
They do not.
Yeah.
They do not. Very unlikely. I see where you're going with that. Unlikely at this point, though. Yeah. But totally logical question. Love it.
Yeah, and thank you very much for the support, Mike.
Yeah. Oh, with 50, yeah. Very nice. Thank you, Mike. Yeah.
Ian Davies and Robert Wide coming in with new memberships. Thank you guys very much as well.
Okay, I'm going to hit the, well, we should probably run through some of these super chats. We're like 34 minutes behind. Neil Leet, could the mystery structure go on the launch table as the hold down structure during booster ignition and prior to liftoff? I think that's what the launch table that they just put up there is supposed to do. Is that right? I don't know that they would need an extra thing.
Yeah, they shouldn't need an extra thing. The hold downs on the hold downs at the base will be what holds it to the pad, just like normal. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times when you see swing arm, not all the time, but a lot of times when you see swing arms reaching out to the vehicle, they're usually never supporting loads, like physical loads or holding it down to the vehicle. They just sort of have a little attach point where they can clip onto the side of the vehicle, like for fueling arms and stuff like that. But even like the big vertical stabilizer system that the SLS that will attach to the SLS core stage isn't a load bearing structure. It's just meant to stabilize the vehicle as it moves back and forth in the wind. It's not meant to clamp it to the pad. So all the hold down bolts are and hold down systems are at the base of the vehicle.
And this now it's going to be my turn to bring up shuttle on this one.
Oh, it wasn't me. I
It
want it
wasn't you.
noted, Chad. It wasn't me.
But I am expecting you to have thoughts on it.
Of course.
We've brought up. I'm sure we've brought up the video that's out on YouTube. It's like this 45-minute video. I think it's even called "The Best of the Best," and it is all this slow motion footage of the shuttle taking off.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yes.
And one of those clips, or maybe a couple of those clips, was the umbilical. It was more like a room. Like it was. I think you could stand up in it if you were in there. And as soon as liftoff, that's it. And it like sucks all that gear back, and then this big door just slams shut super fast. And even in slow motion, you can tell that it's a violent ordeal, right? So that's sort of what you were referring to. But I mean, it does support some amount of weight because there was a lot of gear at the end of that arm.
So in a way, I know exactly what you're thinking about. But that's a perfect example. I think exactly what you just said is what a lot of people think, because right, you see these big, huge things clamping onto the side of vehicles, and you got to assume they can hold some load, right? Some of the weight of the vehicle.
At least themselves hold
They
themselves.
absolutely did not hold any weight of the vehicle. They were literally just attached to the side of it.
No way.
The only
weight
thing
of the
that held
vehicle.
it,
Yeah.
the only
Not
thing,
any weight of the vehicle. Yeah.
yeah, they didn't hold any weight of the vehicle. The only thing that held the shuttle to the pad was the 8 hold down bolts, 4 on each solid rocket booster. Every other arm that swung over to the shuttle was not load bearing.
Yeah, but they were
Yeah,
massive in their own right.
in fact, if the T0 umbilicals, the tail service mast that you were just talking about, and the hydrogen vent line, if those did not pyrotechnically separate from the vehicle, the shuttle would have taken it with them.
Oh.
And it would have been a bad day, but it would have taken some of the tail service mast structure with it as it went. They absolutely could not hold that vehicle to the pad. Yeah.
Joey coming in here with a question: with the weight of all the Raptors at the bottom, will Super Heavy stay upright in the drink? I think we're talking about it like it's floating there, right? Yeah, if it's just
yeah, it could. I mean, there are ways that you can. I mean, it depends on exactly how much of the profile they want to test. A soft splashdown, could it survive? It definitely could. A couple of Falcon 9s surprisingly survived water landings that they were not intended to survive, or at least they didn't think they would survive. So it's certainly possible, but there's no plan to recover them, so they would have ways of making sure they sink to the bottom when needed. Yeah.
It looks like they're over here trying to torque on something on the left side there.
It definitely does, right?
Yeah, I can't make out.
I can't tell if he's just trying to lean over real far, or if
Yeah.
he's if trying to put some pressure on something to break something loose, or what.
Like, turn, bolts, turn.
Yeah. Earlier, it seemed like they really had to convince one of those hoses to come. In fact, it's like right above his head, right there.
That's
the
like
one on the left.
I was going to say, well, that's on just about like every single home project I've ever been involved with.
Yeah, they're really talking about it. They're really taking a look at it. Let's see. Leo Costello said, any updates on the oil rig platforms? Well, actually, I can say I did go out there on my way home from Boca Chica. Well, I stopped at the Port of Brownsville, or outside of it. I found out real quick that Port of Brownsville is not like Port Canaveral, where there's like a side of the south side of Port Canaveral. There's lots of restaurants and even like a public park area, and you can kind of go in there and you can get right up to the water and you can look around. Port of Brownsville is not like that. I was very naive in thinking that I was going to be able to get up close to Demos, I think is the one in Brownsville. And yeah, found out real fast, and I had to get a little creative. I went down one of the highways there that's alongside it and found this little side street and stopped for just a second, took some pictures. Not much was done that I could tell on Deimos. The tower is still there, which I believe that's something that's coming off, right? It's not something that's part of SpaceX's use, the tower that's on Deimos. Am I talking right?
I can't speak to that one.
It sounds like you are. Keep going.
Okay, because and the reason I think that is because, and again, I'm just a photographer. I take the pictures and I let other people analyze them. But whenever I went to visit Phobos over there in the port of Pascagoula.
I love saying that name.
Yes. I took a picture of it and shared it with in our Discord, and was told, oh, there's more progress on Phobos because that tower is gone. So, I put 2 and 2 together, like, okay, so the tower is something that's coming off. And so the one in Pascagoula no longer has a tower. And now it's also a lot more difficult to see.
The Derek. The tower is called
Yep.
Derek.
Oh, I thought you were talking to me.
Yeah.
Oh. I did
That's
too
Derek.
for a minute. I was like,
Yeah, I was
what?
like, you're like, I think you're just saying Derek, and I'm like, yes.
No, they removed Derek from the oil platform.
Yep, I'm no longer there. And
longer
it's so hard to see now.
Right. Yeah, it was sort of difficult to actually find it. I had Brady helping me find a place to go, and he showed me where he actually filmed its arrival from, where he shot the live stream from, out on the fishing pier there in Pascagoula. So that was kind of neat to snoop around and see stuff. Keeping it on the public roadways, of course. But yeah, it's always neat to see space things. And actually, as I was shooting, I guess it was a fisherman. He was just out there fishing. He comes by and he's like, "Now, what are you filming at this time of night?" And I explained, "Well, you might not know this, but there's something really cool over there. See that oil rig there?" He's like, "Well, yeah, I know about oil rigs." I said, "Well, this one in particular is owned by SpaceX and will one day launch rockets." And he's like, "What?" So kind of got to explain a little bit of that, or at least what I knew. And that's always kind of neat, like when people don't necessarily realize what kind of neat things might be just around the corner from them. Let's go back into these super chats. Steve, USMC No Tolerance says, it's my understanding is on recovery, if they make a soft water touchdown, they should be able to be retrieved. Yes. But would you want to?
Retrieved, yes, but the
or at least you
saltwater
could get to
environment
them.
will.
They would no longer be functional.
Yeah, exactly. The saltwater destroys a lot of stuff on contact. It's like, if you think back, for those of you who followed the program back then, there was a cargo resupply mission to the space station of a Falcon 9 and a Dragon launching on top of it back in, I believe it was CRS-16 was the mission on a Falcon 9. It launched in December a few years ago, and the booster successfully started to perform a return to launch site landing. December of 2018. Thank you, John Krause, for texting me that right there. But the booster started to perform a return to launch site landing, and when it got done with its entry burn, there was a hydraulic lockup and failure on the grid fin system. And the booster started wobbling significantly, but it never lost its control enough that the systems just stopped trying to land it. So the center engine relit for the landing burn and was able to stabilize the vehicle, especially as the landing legs deployed. But it knew it wasn't under complete control, so it did what it was supposed to do, which was not redirect itself toward the landing pad, but just keep aiming for the ocean. And it successfully managed to stabilize itself, touch down into the ocean, and tipped over. And there was a lot of work that went into seeing if they could salvage it or some of the engines, and that booster never flew again. Because the saltwater environment just kills technology.
And one of the things I thought was really interesting about that water landing was it touched down, and as it tipped over, it like quickly shot out like vapor. Like it seemed like it vented really fast. And it seemed like they were sort of depressurizing it just enough so that when it smacked the surface of the water, it didn't go pop. Was my impression. Does that sound right?
Kind of. It's basically just the system knew it was out of limits to attempt.
Really quick,
to
Chris, I
yeah.
think they're about to lift it.
Oh, good.
If
Good. Then let's look.
If you
Yeah.
rewind on your YouTube player, you can use the arrow keys to skip back and forth 5 seconds. And the booster is wobbling back and forth very slightly. So it seems like it is currently suspended by the crane.
Good catch. Interesting.
Yeah, there's definitely some movement there. Yeah, you gotta you gotta skip forward and backwards to be able to see it. Yeah.
For anybody who's actually doing that, they can't hear us right now, but
but isn't that
appear,
cool?
Yeah, but it does appear to be
it's free.
Suspended by the crane now. Yeah.
So that means, and DK, we're gonna test you on this. Remember, DOS said there would be tests. What's that called again?
For what?
If it's
the
hanging by a
Kato?
crane. Yes, the Kato.
Crane assisted takeoff. Yeah, I got the name mixed up earlier. Yeah, I'm excited for our Kato, for a crane assisted takeoff.
Yeah.
Just wish we had a countdown. I'm so used to having countdowns.
Yeah.
I know, right?
So now we're just waiting on those tie downs, those red straps because those will have to be removed before it's going anywhere, correct?
Almost certainly,
lifting
yes.
that. Yeah, okay. It's not lifting the structure with it.
No. Unlike the conversation we were just having with the shuttle of like if something didn't separate, it would have taken it with it. The goal is to take nothing with the booster.
Yeah. Making sure.
Here, except the Raptors. Yes.
Oh, I wonder how much margin there is when they start to lift the booster up, because I know that the Raptors stick out just a little bit from the outer circumference of the tank. So I wonder like how much margin they have to make sure that they don't bump those engine bells as it's coming up.
Yeah,
sure. That'd be a bad day.
Yeah, probably not a lot. So this is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's part of what those taglines are for, folks, is to make sure that it doesn't swing too far one way or the other. Sometimes the heat haze, the heat distortion makes it look like it's moving more than it is.
We got a new member from a little while ago now, Omicron99. Thank you very much for that new membership. And for everybody who's just in here chatting, who's given super chats already, and then maybe we haven't gotten to your questions yet, we're going to try to. We do our absolute best, but it is hard to get to all of them.
Yeah, as we're waiting for a little more movement, I'm hoping to see a little daylight there. I will try to keep one eye on that screen and one eye over here on the queue. JJ Vegas coming in with $10 said impact of TPS tile weight on half the vehicle side to perform the flip. Yeah, there is some extra weight on one side in the form of TPS tiles.
I get what they're asking. Not enough to be of consequence, though. Yeah, I get what you're saying. It does shift a little bit, but not enough.
Sure, like it's just changing the center of mass is what the
question
is really?
Yeah. Exactly.
Gotcha.
But then you can kind of balance that out, right? You can counterbalance that with where you place other things within the spacecraft. So yeah, it's a good question. It does shift the center of mass slightly, but not enough that the Raptors can't overcome it.
It is moving. Look at that.
Yes, it is. It is. Look at that.
As all the commentators go quiet, just watching.
Yeah. Never seen so many people pay such close attention to a tiny gap.
Right?
It's like that. It's like how I love that. Like it's like those things when you have to turn the radio down to see better.
Yeah.
When you're driving.
I do it. Yeah. You're getting close to your destination and you're not 100% familiar with the area, and you just
right, so you turn the radio down to make sure that you are able to see. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It checks out. I get it.
Oh man, yeah, this is going to be exciting.
We'll see if we can't sneak in some super chats while we're waiting. We might have to interrupt the answer quickly if it starts to lift off. Crane assisted liftoff. From Kimberly Willingham. Since B4 has external COPV tanks, how do you think that SpaceX will protect them during flight? We talked about a little bit this morning. We thought that there could be some shrouds going over it. I don't know if we have an exact answer for that. Do you know anything about that, either Chris or Stephen?
That's a big negative.
Yeah.
No. I mean, exactly what you just said. Either there are covers that are going on top of them, or those things are bolted like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, and then they just
to the outside of it.
live with the
I
drag,
would
I guess?
imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'd imagine there has to be, there would be an aero cover if this is the configuration they're gonna fly in.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
that
at least
also
something
might
just
not
to
be
get
the
the air to
case.
flow over them.
Right. Yeah.
Really
Exactly.
quick, watch the guy on Mary's camera with that centermost hold down line. There's a guy in a black shirt, so he's kind of camouflaged with that Raptor. But it looks like he might be about to free that hold down line.
Oh,
Okay.
for the middle one there, or
Yeah, the red one. He's like super camouflaged with the
yeah, I
Raptor.
can't see.
Oh,
I
I
see.
see.
I
There's
just
the
see what
guy
you mean,
there.
yeah.
There you go.
There
He
you
looks
go.
like a
Boom.
Raptor.
There is actually one person at each of the hold down of each of
Yeah.
the at each of the tie downs. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess the thought is to disconnect all of them as quickly or like sort of as simultaneously as possible.
That, or I wonder, potentially, I also wonder, and I'm spitballing here, I wonder if they are attached to something that moves and they just help keep the base stabilized. So, as we were saying, the Raptors don't impact the stand as it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that could be, sure.
And there is still somebody up there on the stand, and it looked like
Yes.
they were poking around at the base. I couldn't tell if they were, like, it almost looked like they were poking their head inside like an access hole, but I'm not sure if that's what that was I was seeing.
And certainly before we actually see it being lifted, he's going to have to evacuate.
Maybe. I wonder, is that a rule? Because sometimes whenever they're dropping something down, they'll be there on the stand sort of guiding it. So maybe even as it's being lifted, it's okay
That's
to...
fair. That's a little conjecture. I sort of assumed for safety's sake that you wouldn't want to be right there. I wouldn't want to be right there. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know one way or the other. I'm thinking when they set heavy things down, sometimes they're there to sort of guide it into place.
Sure,
So maybe...
Yeah, I understand.
They're really talking about it.
Well,
Yeah.
they're given instructions of what
Yeah,
to do.
heave. Let's see. We're trying to figure out if we should take some more questions here or
Yeah, let's
just shut up a minute. I'm not sure.
I say take a few more questions
Let's see
until
what we
we
can do
actually
here.
see it in the air. Yeah.
From Alan Platt a moment ago, do you think that they're going to stack Starship 20 and risk it for the static test fires on Booster 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to stack it. The Starship 20 is definitely going to be stacked on top of Booster 4. All indications point to that is going to happen first. What the static fire sequence is thereafter is truly anyone's guess right now. They could take them apart again. They could remove some of the Raptors from the booster. They could remove, and it looks like they might have to remove some of the Raptors from Starship to get it onto a suborbital pad. We just don't know. The only thing we seemingly know, based on the way the pads are all configured right now and what's on the various pads, is that the only place for Ship 20 to go is on top of Booster 4 at this point, because the suborbital pad B, which is not occupied by a booster right now, has a bunch of the thrust testing equipment installed on it, which means a vehicle with Raptors installed cannot be put on it right now. So that sort of gives us the only place it can go is on top of Booster 4 answer right now. But what it is after that, we just don't know yet.
I wonder what that is swinging around back there in the back.
Another crane.
Another crane.
Yeah, which
Holy moly.
rain is that now?
I wonder if Mary or Jack has eyes. If that's just maybe that's just been hanging there the whole time, and the wind picked up, and now I'm seeing it sway back and forth. I don't know. I would think that it's sort of all eyes on B4 right now, but at the same time, I've been there, and there's always people working everywhere. Like there's the people working on this right now, but I can guarantee you, if you were to look another direction, there would be people working on other stuff that has nothing to do with this. It's just it's like a beehive over there.
I'm taking a look at some of our other cams just to see what they can see, and I don't know. I think that might just be a crane, and as the wind picked up, now we're able to see it a little bit.
Yeah. Let's see. Terry Heaton came in with a super chat about 45 minutes ago. Sorry, we are so far behind, folks. We're doing our best to get to all these questions and stuff. But here's a speculation. Terry says, my speculation: the pipe structures are the crane that will do the lifting from the launch tower. The mystery structures work with the catch arms. There's some speculation to file that under speculation.
Bill Smith with a $20 super chat asking when we're going to see Elon on NSF Live. Tell you what, if you have his number, have him give us a call, or we'll call him, and we'll arrange that best we can.
He's a very, very busy person.
So I hear,
yeah. But it would be awesome if he'd come and answer a few questions for the community.
Robert Strezlischik. Boy, I'm going to say that I did okay at that. I'm pretty sure the mystery structure is inserted into the orbital mount. The table holds the super heavy, but the mystery structure gives access to the Raptors. That's another guess as to what that mystery structure that we've seen out there is for.
It's the nature of mystery structures.
It could be, if they need a way to replace Raptors on the stand, it very well could be. Yeah.
We've got crew at each of the lines right now, it seems.
And someone else doing a little welding.
Yeah, right up there in the foreground a little bit.
Closer to the camera,
yeah.
In case you were under the impression that it wasn't just all go at Starbase,
Yeah.
Can you imagine having to be that? Well, I don't know. I would not be able to concentrate on what I was doing if this lift was about to happen behind me,
Right.
Oh wow! Look at this. Let's see. Edrizzle. It's EDRZL. Hello from NASA Marshall Space Flight Center. Love the stream. Super stoked about the first orbital Starship flight. Well, hello out there in Marshall. That's pretty cool.
Indeed. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, the Marshall Space Flight Center, for those unfamiliar with it, is located in Huntsville, Alabama, and it is the home of many NASA projects, including the SLS and Artemis program. Very confusion there.
A little garbled at the end there, Chris.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying that for those unfamiliar with the Marshall Space Flight Center, it is the home of many NASA programs, including the Artemis program.
Oh, great.
For that. So yes, a very important center there in Huntsville, Alabama.
While we're still waiting to see those tie downs be released, we got a super chat from Jacob Reidel asking if there's any possibility to do an RTLS with either BN3 or booster 3 or booster 4. RTLS being return to launch/landing site.
Yes. So the plan right now, per the latest update, flight path update, which is several months old, so take this with the grain of salt that it is, for the orbital flight test, which would use Booster 4 and Ship 20, would call for Booster 4 to basically perform an RTLS trajectory, but not actually come back to the launch site. It would basically perform everything, but it would aim itself about 20 kilometers offshore. From Starbase, and that is just to test that the booster and the Raptors can actually do the flight profile that they would need to without endangering all of the hardware at Starbase. Again, that is based on the previously filed flight plan, which is a few months old at this time. So grain of salt.
roughly 20 kilometers offshore. That would still be somewhat visible. Obviously, not the landing itself, but somewhat visible from shore, right?
It would be. I believe that's something like 12 or 13 miles offshore. Is roughly 20 kilometers. So yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And you know, we will try to bring you live views from the shore. I don't know. Maybe there's a boat. do we have it? Is there an NSF boat?
Well, you'll just have to stay tuned.
It's in the same fund as the NSF helicopter.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, look, we have to have some way to broadcast the ship coming down north of Hawaii. You know.
New members coming in: Pablo Perlmutter, and Michael Athens. Thank you both very much for the new memberships.
I see a question from Marcelo Glenadell. Could SpaceX rush the installation of the catching arms and attempt to land Booster 4 nicely? I'm not sure you'd want to do that, because if you go to attempt a landing at the launch site, you really want that to go well. I don't know if you'd want to rush that installation, right?
No, and I think there's a lot of one thing as we talk about their progression toward the first orbital flight. Right. Obviously, the longer things progress, the more likely there are to be arms on the tower by the time we get to that point. But there's a lot
going up. Sorry,
going up. No, interrupt.
Oh,
anytime
yes,
you
it
like.
is.
Oh, interrupt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Michael always butts in with great news.
Ooh, there it goes.
look at that.
And it looks like those tie downs are still on it, so they might be to help stabilize the bottom half of this thing as it comes out, because there's a lot of expensive equipment there.
Yeah. Have we actually seen what's at the end of those tie downs on the ground? Like maybe it's sort of a tension pulley system that's just maintaining tension to keep it from wobbling around too much.
I don't think I've gotten a clear view of it from our camera angles, no. But that's just me.
Yeah. Just some speculation, folks. Just like thinking, why would they still be taught?
Yeah. Am I seeing a little bit of slack on the right side one there?
There may be.
Yeah. Sort of as it's wobbling back and forth now a little bit.
Exactly. They seem to get taunt and then slack, taunt and then slack. Oh, we see. They're definitely still attached. Look at that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the one on the left here, you see it wobbling like it's tight.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. Oh, I think this worker, what they might be doing is walking around making sure nothing's gonna rub up against the stand.
Yeah.
Doing one last ocular pat down.
Man, you think they'd have as many people there for as many Raptors as there are
Yeah.
there.
Right.
Right. Like, all right, you have Raptor 16. You Raptor Wranglers, I'm telling you, that's a job description there.
I sort of hope they rotate it once it's airborne.
Like it's giving a little bit of spin.
Yeah, I would love it, because I really want to see R2B2.
R2B2?
Yeah. You saw that one, right? Last or
I no,
2
I,
weeks ago.
I did not, but it doesn't surprise me that they named
Yeah,
one
it's
that.
got a little R2D2 painted on the engine bell.
I love it. Love it.
It seems like movement is. Ooh, is it continuing or is it stopped? It's so hard to tell.
It would not be surprising in a lift like this if they do stop periodically. So if we do see that, I would so not be surprised.
Yeah.
Looks like
that.
it's
Yeah.
still going up very slowly.
Okay.
Agreed.
I
Yeah.
like this
But
view right here. This view is great. You can see how the center engines poke out just a little further
Yep.
in the outer ring.
Yeah.
Just like how the Falcon 9 center engine sticks out a little
Yeah, so
bit more
those
from the other
those
eight.
are the ones that actually have thrust vector in. They have gimbal
Yes.
um,
Indeed.
to control attitude.
Oh my gosh, look at that. Oh wow, you can see how
Oh,
much
yeah.
the Raptor guts stick
Woo.
out from the side of that Airstream. What is
Wow. I
going
was
on?
wondering about
Look
that.
at that. But what is going around them to protect them?
It
I
looks.
don't think I realized they
know.
Spaghetti.
protruded out that much.
I
which
didn't
would-
either. I
yeah,
thought that it was just the bell itself that protruded out, but
I
it looks
did
like
too.
these are like mounted straight to the rim of the
does.
cylinder. Wow.
Oh, this will be phenomenal to see what this ends up looking like.
I'm just sitting here with my mouth
And
open.
Yeah,
oh
same.
man, and oh my gosh, and every time it swings, I'm like leaning the opposite
Yeah.
direction in my chair, like because that works, right? Like-
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like playing Mario Kart. You know, it's
Yes,
same,
exactly.
Same thing. It helps.
Yeah. You
Maximum turnness, right?
Yes. Oh man. Okay, so we're getting to the part where the outermost part of the engine bell is going to be closest to the stand that it was just on.
Does this count as kind of similar to like max Q for the Kato?
That's it.
Yes.
Where it's the point of maximum possible failure.
Yeah.
Oof! Don't say that.
Sorry. If something goes wrong, it's because I jinxed it. That's what happened.
Oh, look, he's like grabbing the Raptor as he makes his way
Yeah,
around
just making
the
sure
perimeter.
that those are all nice and tight.
Yeah. Give it a little jiggle.
Yeah.
Slaps hood. This one's solid.
This one will take you right to orbit.
Yeah.
There are no tires, so he just kicks the engine bell.
Ever so slowly. Look at that.
Yeah, and Daniel Yavchev said, yeah, is the Raptors being that exposed a liability? It is interesting now that we see just how much the guts stick out from the perimeter.
But we
Yeah,
are also
absolutely. I mean, it's the looks like the mounting point is just the very edge of the booster itself.
Yeah.
There's also the question of why install the Raptors before you've done proof testing. Well, I think you might be seeing the reason why. They want to get practice maneuvering a super heavy booster with 29 Raptor engines installed.
Yeah, and again, because this has never been done before. Not with something so large.
Yeah.
And then Musical Wolf said, could one person really push all that weight to help steer it? And yes. And oh, look, you see the one guy pulling.
To an extent, yeah. Look at that. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, it almost.
I mean,
they're almost clear.
Look at that,
It
yeah.
They're
looks
almost
like.
there. Yeah, when hopping back to that other question right there about can you really push it to help steer it? You can. In fact, when we do modal tests, like shake tests on rockets when they're fully assembled in assembly buildings or fully stacked, sometimes the easiest way to do that is just to have people go push on it and pull it back and forth manually. I'm dead.
Yeah,
I
just
am
the low
dead
the low
serious.
tech
Yeah.
option. Yeah, I mean, just jiggle a little bit, see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Steely
Yeah,
think
Ford.
I don't
Yeah,
think
go
there's
ahead.
anybody in the world right now feeling as powerful as our crewman on the left there, pushing the rocket by hand. Be like, yep, this is good.
Yeah.
Neon SpaceX hero, right?
Yeah,
I was pushing B4 around earlier today.
Yeah.
And look
Jim's
at
that
this.
way.
Look at this comment from Steely Ford. Maximum air cooling.
Yeah.
Maximum air cooling.
No, that's why there's no shots. That's why you can see it all. But
Yeah, exactly.
boy, it really, I cannot get over how wild it is to see all of the structure of the engines themselves just exposed like that.
Yeah, and the fact that there's a lot of people within SpaceX that actually understand what every one of those tubes are.
Yeah. Right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, which ones are press lines, which ones are coolant lines, which ones are recirc line. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
So those red tie downs now, are they going to be eventually just disconnected? Because it looks like there's, I mean, obviously they've been given more and more slack from them. So I guess maybe they keep those down
It's
at a
clear
certain
of the
point, and then until it's clear
and
of
it is.
the
It's
I
all
don't
the
know if
outer
it's
ones are
structured.
clear of the rig. Yeah,
Yeah.
look at that. That's what I'm
And
thinking
then
too, DK. Yeah.
yeah, so those,
Exactly.
just to really keep it as steady as possible, because those are all mounted to those huge, are those gray concrete blocks? Or are they
And
metal?
man, yeah, exactly. Yeah, those blocks that are on the on the
Mhm.
SPMTs, yeah, is what they're attached to. And man, you can see how useful they were today, because
Mhm.
you can see every once in a while, like when the wind catches the shirt or when the wind catches something behind it, you can see how much it's actually blowing. There comes one of the tie downs
Yep.
Yeah, the
going
one
on the right
closest
hand
to
side.
us.
Super
Oh,
slack.
and the left is going
On the
too.
left.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, it looks
So
like
yep,
they're
that's
maybe
exactly
untying
what
it.
they're there for, just to
Yeah.
help them guide the Raptors out. Look at
So I
that.
wonder then if when we go to mount this on, goodness, the acronym escapes me suddenly. Is it the OLP?
The OLP, yes.
Yeah, thank you. When they go to mount this, will they then use that same sort of functionality? Like, are those tie downs going to stay there, and then have
Well,
them reattach as it goes to be put in there?
Yeah, we shall see.
Yeah, I'm
It,
very
it,
curious.
yeah, it's a great question, because the other booster that went on to suborbital pad A didn't have this many engines,
Yeah.
right? I mean, there just wasn't a need for it in that regard. So it will be interesting to see if the orbital launch mount has a little bit better clearance for parts of it, or if they need to reattach it to do the same thing for that one. Look at that. Booster 4 is in the air at the launch site. Whew.
Mike Willoughby said, "Thanks for the amazing views." Yes, thank you,
Yes.
Jack and Mary, for these amazing views.
Yes, goodness. Let's shout out to both Jack and Mary right now in the field, where we're all in our cozy homes on comms right now, but Jack and Mary are actually down there at Boca Chica with cameras. So that was Jack's camera. Here's Mary's view. Oof.
Oh man.
Goodness.
Oh, this is cool. It's such a long time coming. I just remember the first time we ever saw just a render of all those Raptors back when it was still the Mars Colonial Transporters. Remember that original render that came out? Yeah, looking from underneath the launch pad, looking up at all and you're just like, really? You're gonna be able to put that many engines on there? And
Yeah.
we are now looking at it. I think at the time it was like, I think it was 42 engines, but that was when it was going to be the wider configuration. But
Sure, I think he specifically just wanted 42 on there.
yeah, exactly.
They've been finding a way to have a total number of 42 for a really long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. And still, even seeing it now, just sort of hopping off what you were saying there, Steven, I mean, like seeing it now, and it's not a render, it's
Yeah.
real.
It's
And
it's,
and it's still just like I'm looking at that going like, oh my God, what does that look like when they all ignite?
oh man.
Yes.
Yeah, because the most we've ever seen at one time is 3, and it's
Three.
beautiful.
3.
I know.
This is 29. Eventually 33, right? So it's
Yeah, eventually 33 on the booster. Yeah, per the current
Goodness.
estimate. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of questions about whether they'll have the engines exposed like that when it comes to operation. And as of right now, we just don't know. We would love to be able to answer that question for you, but we're kind of we're waiting alongside with you.
I think it's not too much conjecture to say probably.
Yeah, I would think that they would want to protect them from the airflow somehow,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's just like a little, like a small skirt that just kind of kicks the wind out away from them. You know, maybe
Yeah,
maybe it doesn't necessarily have to cover them up completely or whatever.
Well, I'm spitballing here. I mean, it might just be that for whatever they're going to test booster for with right now, they didn't need it, so they didn't do it to save time. Right. It might be that the transporter is just not big enough. Like maybe they have to physically mount the skirt at the pad to get it out of the transporter. That's a possibility too. I'd sort of lean toward maybe they just didn't do it to save time on this one, or holy crap, those Raptors are built to withstand a lot.
Yeah.
For people who missed it earlier, Skip was asking what the mass/weight is of this lift, and between 160 and 200 tons.
Yep. The booster with its engines is 160 metric tons for this one.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Don't get your fingers
So it looks like there's
between there.
chain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like there's chains at the end of those red tie downs. Is that crew members on the ground there that are just sort of holding them to keep them from dangling?
Maybe if they are needed for like guiding it once it's at the orbital launch mount, orbital launch platform, whatever we're calling it. Maybe it's just to keep the guide, the taglines, right?
It
Maybe
does
it's
look
their
like-
version of a tagline, like to just keep a hold of it, you know?
It looks like the worker on the other side has his hand on one of these red ones.
It does, yeah.
The
Oh
shot
my
that I want to
goodness.
see is from underneath the booster itself.
Yep. Once they get it up high
I
enough. Yeah.
cannot wait.
Now, of course, they don't. My first thought was like, oh yeah, they're going to lift it way up there. Well, they only have to get it up over the launch mount, but that's still quite high from where Jack and Mary are. So hopefully we'll get a nice look from underneath. Oh, we're moving again.
Picking up a little bit of speed.
Yeah.
Do we know offhand the measurement of how high that the OLP, the orbital launch platform, actually is off the ground?
Good question.
Yeah, I don't know if we know that measurement offhand. Well, you can see it in the background, that gray structure, all those sort of pipes that are looking like they're coming out from the backside of this view. That is where our booster's going.
Right. Yes, that's right. That's what they just last week they just put the launch table on top of that, which has all kinds of goodies in there, hold down points, and
Look at
nice
that view.
And from that far away, you can still make out the individual Raptors.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do some Googling and see if I can find the height of the launch platform. Does anybody know that off the top of their head, how tall that thing is?
Can we go back to the other view real quick? Just really quick.
It's that tall.
Roughly
How
20 or
about that
30,
tall?
what, roughly 20 to 30 meters off the ground. There you go.
There you go. That's a good enough estimate.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how far we have to lift booster 4 here.
Yep. And get it up over the existing scaffolding that's there still.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh man, what a cool view. The silhouette of the tiny people and the massive booster and the Raptors. Oh, that is so cool.
Wait. We were supposed to remove the white Hollywood background screen, guys. Come on. That was the deal for filming on the stage with the moon landing.
Beautiful. Don't put ideas in people's heads, Chris.
You're welcome.
They're like, I heard it. I heard
Yeah.
it. I
No,
heard
they
on
said
NASA
it.
spaceflight. I heard it.
They said it. NASA told me.
Yeah. Sarcasm preference. Wah, wah.
Or as we like to call it, starcasm.
Oh, okay. Well, Jim would save that joke for Friday when Jim Williams does Dad Joke Friday.
Hey, does it look to you guys like that center ring of engine been gimbaled inwards?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does look like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is that just
maybe-
from their natural weight, like that makes them angle that way, or is that?
Or if that was controlled, I don't know. But yeah, they all seem to be gimbaled completely inwards. And I wonder if that was just, I don't know if that was, like you said, being not under power of just having the weight of them.
Yeah, like in
Sort
neutral
of-
kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
or if that was
exactly.
specifically done to add just like a little bit more clearance, I guess, just in case.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be for work clearance around the other ones. It
Yeah.
probably is just their natural null position.
Mhm.
Yeah. Where did the booster go? Oh no.
Oh no, they lost it.
Cartoon mode activate.
I'm looking forward to most next when we get to then not just lift the booster, but also move it over how many ever meters it is from where it is right now over to the orbital landing platform. That's going to be quite a sight. It already is. Look at that.
Yes.
Sorry, Stephen, we're not seeing R2B2 quite
No,
yet.
we're not.
They knew where to hide that one.
Wait, no, I just saw it.
Well, I
think I just saw
I
it.
just saw it at the end. Yep.
Yeah, because
was
the
it?
R2B2 was on the inner part. I'm gonna try to back this up on the.
Look at that view. Oh my gosh, look at
It's-
that view. Look at that view.
Incredible.
Yep, I have spotted it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's on
the
lower left there.
R2B2 is
R2B2, there he is.
Yep, it's on the inner ring. Yep. Oh,
I love
so if it goes up higher, you should be able to see R2D2 right above where it says
Oh, yeah.
R2B2.
I can kind of make out the little bottom of it there.
Yep.
That's so funny.
And I think that's the only one in this batch that has like anything funny painted on it. Now, some of these engine bells, they sort of just like took a can of spray paint and no stencil and just kind of wrote it by hand instead of using the stencil. And I thought that was interesting. I'd love to know why. You know, like they just got in a hurry. They're like,
lose their stencils.
yeah,
Why wait for the stencil?
Yeah.
I forgot my stencils at home.
Oh, here we go. It's about 30 meters up at the base. The base of it's about 30 meters up right now. Ah.
So as it goes over to the orbital landing platform, might we see someone, I guess, on the orbital landing platform grab one of those cablings that are now free to just get it out of the way, or is it just going to drag across it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
'Cause from,
maybe,
from those red tie downs, because I
see
don't know
what
if you'd
you're
want it
saying,
to
yeah.
necessarily it's pretty low risk, but you wouldn't want it to drag across the scaffolding. You'd want it to get out of the way. How's that going to be handled? I wonder.
Yeah, they're pretty long. I was going to say maybe they just lift it up a little bit higher,
Yeah.
but no, I don't. They're pretty
Yeah,
long
they can be.
lines.
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll just walk it around it.
They might.
know,
They
like,
might.
from the
Yeah,
ground.
that might not be a problem. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And just real quick, as we have Booster 4 suspended in the air before they start moving it over to the orbital launch mount here. I just wanted to say thank you, thank you, thank you so much to the approximately 30,000 of you who are watching this. This is incredible.
Yeah, 32 now?
Yeah, 32. Watching this booster get put onto the orbital launch stand, it is a huge symbolic and visual moment in the development of this program, but it is a huge engineering and testing milestone as well. Want to make that very, very clear. The stuff that they're doing today, right? Practicing their procedures, getting crews comfortable with handling a 160-ton vehicle in the air, getting it attached to the launch mount so they can start testing its systems and everything like that. Really, really critical, and just thank you everyone for watching. It's incredible to be here. I know we love to nerd out. I'm always really happy when everyone comes and joins us and nerds out with us, because this is good stuff to good and positive stuff to just feel happy about.
Yeah.
And just thank you so much to everyone who's given super chats or channel memberships. And if you haven't, if you just watched the ad, thank you so much. If you want other ways to support us, we do have a store online with some Starship specific merchandise, including one that I believe is When Starship Orbit. So we do have some When Orbit material in there for our store. If you want to head on over there and support us that way, it is shop.nasaspaceflight.com. And we do have some merchandise there, as well as a whole host of other things. But just thank you, just thank you so much. I am always amazed at how many people find this as fascinating as we do. And just thank you. It warms my heart. Thank you.
I'd like to throw in a suggestion for an R2B2 T-shirt or hat.
Oh yes.
If only just one for Steven.
Yeah, just for me. It's the first one I ever saw in person, you know?
Yeah. I guess the big question is, do we go with these aren't the engines you're looking for, or do we change it to these are the
These
engines
are
you're
the-
looking for?
Right, right. Oh, man. In free flight. Here we go. Oh, we can see up underneath.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that.
Boy, so that configuration, so that those internal boosters, is that 9 on the inside, and those 9 gimbaling center engines?
Yes, yeah, it's one on the one in the
Then-
very middle, and then 8 around it.
So
right?
then 20 around it
Mhm.
for that are non-gimbaling, non-thrust vectoring engines.
That sounds right. Yes.
There's a pretty good view of R2B2 right there. You can see him. You
Yep.
can see the side view of R2D2.
Yeah. R2B2.
I love that we got a shot of being able to show him in there. It's great.
Yeah. I'm over here. I'm getting a screenshot together so I can tweet it of R2B2. Probably won't be able to do it while I'm doing this, but I've got it for later. Okay, so now it's significantly higher than the platform. So let's see if they have to go any higher, or if they just start rotating over.
Yeah, it looks like they're getting like a lot of clearance over there. So you might have been right with they're just going to lift it up above where those tie downs would go. So I guess maybe they are going to put those tie downs now onto the orbital landing, or excuse me, orbital launch platform.
Maybe they can get some workers up there which it looks like they have some up there on the platform now. Maybe they'll go over and gather those tag lines and just make sure they don't get caught on something as they
Look
go
at this.
over.
Woo.
That is beautiful. I mean, with the sky behind it.
Yeah.
I like a painting.
Yeah.
Man. Oh my gosh. That is just.
It's unreal.
And again, like I just want to say this, like this is normally stuff we don't see. Rockets that are stacked vertically usually are not stacked vertically at the launch pad, right? Or if they are, they're in big, gigantic structures that surround the launch pad, and you don't get to see
Yeah, like you'd have a vehicle
rockets
assembly building.
suspended. Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
normally there's some sort of shroud, but here it's just open air, and we get a view of it.
Yeah, I want to grab this one real quick. Ken B said, "We love nerding with you nerds, LOL. Also, tell Mary how much we love her work."
Oh,
I
absolutely.
think I'm speaking for the whole community. And when we first jumped on this stream, I mentioned how I'd been in Boca Chica and sort of got to see what Mary does firsthand. But there's a lot more of you watching now, and I just want to say that it was mind-blowing. I mean, the whole Starbase thing was mind-blowing, but to see the kind of drive that Mary has, getting up before sunrise and sometimes not ending her day until after sunset, and just being so dedicated, and anytime, you know, there was something that might be happening, she was there, you know, and she was creating the clips all throughout the day, going back and forth between the production site and the heat and the mosquitoes. All that stuff. I mean, it was really impressive. I mean, you know, before going out there, I'd never met Mary, and I obviously, you know, I knew that she put in a lot of hard work, but seeing it firsthand, all of your appreciation is definitely warranted. She puts in a lot of effort every single day. This is a 7-day-a-week thing that she does, y'all, just to bring y'all these live views as well as the daily progress videos. So definitely appreciation is deserved for Mary, because she has a passion for this stuff. You could see it. She'd be out there doing this whether she was involved with NASA spaceflight or not. I could tell that she is just super interested in this stuff, and to have her out there, she wasn't even a photographer prior.
Yeah,
prior
she
to
was.
this.
My understanding, she was at Boca Chica already, correct? And then
Yeah,
just started documenting everything.
Yeah,
exactly.
she was. Yep. She was there long before SpaceX, or I shouldn't say long before. I don't know how long before, but she was there. She was there before SpaceX came a knocking. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really incredible. I learned a lot from her, and I made it apparent to Chris that if Mary ever needs some time off, when we have several photographers that can do it, but throw my name in the hat. I'd love to go out and cover for her, and you know, she does so much that I think all of the community support for her is well warranted.
Totally agree. Are there any questions striking your fancy right now, Steven? Oh, look at it going
Yeah.
over toward the. Yeah, it's definitely translating over. Look at that.
Oh, cool.
Do.
Yeah, let's see. I was trying to see if I could find some questions that had to do with kind of where we are at this point.
Yeah.
You know, let's see. Oh, here we go. Here's a good one. Neil Leet says, so how does the booster sit on the table? There's no rim or skirt, etc. How is it supported? That is a good question. I mean,
hold yeah, the hold down system.
Yeah.
Rockets usually don't rest on structures of the pad; they rest on hold downs that release them at T0 when the count reaches 0.
It seems like it's with the way those engines protrude out there, it's got to be tough to align them, you know, just like that. Like, because those hold down points are going to have to slide in between two of the Raptors.
Well, the hold down posts would hold on to the skirt, not necessarily
on the outside of the skirt. Oh, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, would hold it on the outside of it. Yes.
Okay, so Neil and I are we are now a little bit smarter. Thank you.
Yeah, I just have to stop again. This image is amazing. The more you look at it, the more you see. Like, been staring at it for a while. I just noticed that 15 and 16 are in
we're in
the
the back
bottom lower left-hand corner.
Right?
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Man.
And then high
that's
bay
great.
and mid bay and just a
And
view of
20.
almost
Yes.
everything
Oh,
going on.
yes.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
Brady is saying 20 as well. Yes, duh.
Yeah.
Yep. You can see 20 hiding in the high bay there.
Preparing to be stacked itself. Wow.
Wow.
All right, looking through questions, just trying to find some again that are kind of pertinent to now. Okay,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I had my headphones off for a second, but I saw one from Josh Wilson saying, "Can we get a shout out to Michael?" And I'll include Dawson there too for being incredible at keeping these streams running fantastically and consistently, and just doing a really, really good job with the operations of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much, and I am doing my absolute best to get all the best angles on air. Both Jack and Mary and the robots are all sending in incredible footage, so I'm trying to click the buttons as fast as possible to get the best shots on air.
You're doing a great job, Michael. Yeah, great job.
I gotta jump in too. I've been here the entire time, but this is insane.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so good.
Right?
It's so good. Doss has been doing some stuff in the background.
Background stuff here, but this is absolutely crazy, y'all.
You know, DK, you were saying like yesterday when we were watching the rollout, right?
Yeah.
Like that it made you want to go play, like like play KSP
Oh,
to
no, I'm
relax
doing it
at the end of the
tonight.
day, and you're doing it tonight. Yeah,
Oh, I am.
exactly.
Yeah,
And-
yeah.
yeah.
I stream on Twitch in addition to this, and I'll be doing Kerbal.
Yeah.
Goodness.
No. I was just saying I have the same feeling. Like just watching
Yeah,
this, like
it's
it
just-
instills
yeah.
you with the like, oh my
Like, I just-
gosh, like I have to
I want to
go.
launch some rockets.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
I like this one. Mark Leatham said, "Take this opportunity to imagine the booster hovering in the air next to the tower just before it's caught."
Oh, there you go.
That is a
Yeah,
really good point. Yeah.
That's a great point. The first time that we see a booster caught by those arms like that, I might actually openly weep.
Oh my
Right.
gosh.
It's just remarkable.
It's it's like the first time I saw the Falcon 9 do a return to launch site landing.
Yeah,
I was just speechless.
yeah. They,
Like,
they did it.
Oh yeah, they did it, and
Yeah.
then when they came back like an Olympic sport together on the first Falcon Heavy,
Yes.
I mean I was just like I remember Falcon Heavy was when I met Pauline, and Pauline is our West Coast photographer, and does some of the graphics for us and store designs for our merchandise as well. But the first time I met Pauline was at the Falcon Heavy launch, and when the boosters came back and landed together, we were both in tears and speechless. And
Yeah.
like I still look back at pictures of that day, and I'm like, fake. You know?
Yeah.
Chris,
There's
I seem to
there's no way.
recall. I seem to recall making you do a voiceover for me because I needed something to cover up. That's so Falcon
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Yes, I
could
remember
not
sitting in
repeat.
my yeah.
I could not repeat my tweet that I tweeted when that happened on stream here.
Yes, that's a true story. I had to sit in my car after a stream and do audio dub recording.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm
to
like, I
replace
can't,
something that I actually said. Yes.
Yeah.
I can't release this on my family-friendly channel until you make this say so Falcon cool, please.
Steven, you were talking about the Raptors that actually had the numbers just spray painted on. You
Oh,
look at
there's
right
one
next to
of them.
RB20.
Yep.
There's one right there. There's just somebody with just a rattle can getting
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
It's like no
Raptor
time.
graffiti.
We have to ship it right now. It's like it's going out the door, and you see a line of spray paint down the side where the truck started rolling before they were done.
Yeah, they're running alongside the truck.
They're running alongside the truck trying to spray paint the Raptors.
Yeah, and y'all are talking about the first time Falcon landed, and then and of course Falcon Heavy. The first time Falcon successfully landed, I was still living in Tennessee in those days, and I was like the only space fan I knew. So I rushed to get off work, in time for the launch, and I'm alone in my apartment, and as soon as it was like touchdown confirmed, and you start hearing them say the super cool landing operators move into whatever the line was, and I'm just yelling, like you saying you were speechless. I'm sitting here like I was the exact opposite. It was like
Yeah.
it was like you're like hometown team, Super Bowl winning, and the whole city goes nuts. That was me alone in my apartment, and I'm sure my neighbors thought I was crazy.
Well, I might not. Well, I said I was speechless. Words didn't come out of my mouth, but sounds were coming out of my mouth when it landed. No, it's funny. People like people from the 45th, SpaceX, and ULA, and other members of the media have told me a few times that like every time the Falcon lands, like the last one that returned to launch site landed a couple of months ago, or like a month ago
Yeah.
now, like I was still screaming and like carrying on because like they're so cool and I've seen them so many times. It never gets old. Like the excitement never leaves you when you're like, oh my gosh, it just did something extra cool after sending something off the planet. Like
I think I caught your reaction because I like did one of those, just lay my phone down and let my phone catch footage while I was shooting. And I didn't pause it, or I didn't stop the video until like a couple minutes later, and I caught your reaction in the background. And so if you scroll down far enough in my Twitter feed, you'll hear how Chris reacts to Falcon 9 landing.
Yeah, quick, guys, so it looks like you've got workers now capturing the chains that had the those tie downs now.
Yep.
And
same process, but in reverse now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine the immense game of operation that they're going to have to play here. So they have to get the booster with all of those Raptor engine bells and all of that plumbing directly down the middle of this orbital launch table and get it all aligned so it can go. But you can't just like, oops, ding, we hit one Raptor.
Yeah,
You're going to crush that entire Raptor.
200-ton whoopsie.
Yeah, exactly. It's an immense, it's like a huge game of operation here where they're trying to, don't make it buzz. This is going to be crazy.
Come on, we need neon green shirt guy. Where is neon green shirt guy? Like, don't tell me he shifted out. Like, come on.
The
look, they're waving it in. See the person on the lower left waving like this way, this way. Yeah. Sorry, DK. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. Well, I was just going to say, so for the eventual arm capture mechanism, is this then, would that capture then just be sort of plopping it down right in spot that we're seeing now, only in much more quickly? That is even more insane.
Yeah.
Look at this. Are they gonna rotate it a little bit?
It looks like it's spinning a little, doesn't it?
Sort of hauling on it a little bit there. Yeah, I don't. Maybe they're aligning something.
Yeah, I'm watching the handwritten RB1 there. That's like the dead center engine right now, flanked by 6 and 20.
Yeah.
There.
Massive rocket maypole that they're running around. Look at this.
I mean, oh, sorry. And I was just going to say, like, and you just think of, like, the most recent video we got from NASA of when they made it the core stage of SLS, right? And it's, like, so precise. Like, it picks it up very slowly. It slowly rotates it. Like, there are no people with guide wires going, to the left! You know?
Yeah. Is that tie line that's closest to our camera right now, is that wrapped around a piece of a Raptor?
Oh, it does look like it's on a... It looks like it's on plumbing.
Yeah.
No.
Remember how we were talking about we were curious about the sort of shrouds that the engines will eventually have?
Yeah.
Oh, we're about to see.
That definitely looks like it's caught on some of the exposed plumbing of RB6 there.
Yeah.
Good idea.
It looks like he is applying pressure.
I mean, it's got a sharp angle there where you can tell
like
that it's caught on.
He keeps on pulling it.
Well, this is how we learn.
Well, it looks like they're turning it. Well, maybe that's how they're turning it.
Yeah.
All right.
Still makes me nervous, but all right.
No, I don't like that.
Look at that thing start to go. I mean, look at the inertia it's got, and it just keeps spinning.
It's really going.
Yeah, once they get it going, it'll just, its own momentum will keep it going.
Now, potentially not a big idea, a big deal that it's on the plumbing there. I mean,
yeah, they are built to withstand quite a bit of force, you know.
Yeah, it does go to space. That's a good point.
It has to go to space, yeah. It has to survive going to space and being stuck out into the supersonic airflow, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe not stuck out in the airflow, but you know what I mean.
Maybe a little tug ain't that bad. Yeah.
You've got Army strong, and now you've got spaceflight strong. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Imagine having to stop this rotation now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't understand how that's going to go.
Start
very
early.
carefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they've gone through almost a quarter, like 90 degrees of rotation here, it looks like.
Yeah,
Where's the spray painted Raptor? It's almost around the corner now.
it totally is. Yeah.
That one Raptor belt looks a little rusty or something. RB9 there is not looking.
Yeah,
really
RE9
up to
is
snuff.
seen some better days.
So we're just inspecting all the Raptors. This is, you know how they do the fly around on the station when they approach the station? This is the fly around on the booster, but they just spin it in a circle so we can inspect the Raptors. Look at this. There again on RB is that 8.
Looks like 8, yeah.
That line is caught on some exposed plumbing.
And he doesn't seem to be too concerned about it.
Yeah. It's not like they're trying to, you know how you sort of do the whip thing where you put a little wave in the line to try and jump the garden hose over the state, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I haven't seen them doing that, but
And it's not like they're not looking up there, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's fine.
see, I almost wonder if there's not like a Raptor engineer, Raptor mechanic back in Hawthorne, like screaming at their TV
being like,
right
what are you doing?
now.
Like, what are you doing?
No, pressure line 3, no, like. Yeah. Again, folks, this is the first time they've done this LDTA. You and me both.
Yeah.
Although you know what I'm noticing, the two straps here on 8 and whatever the one on the left hand side are, they seem to be wrapped around the same part of the Raptor. I wonder if there are points of the Raptors where you can exert force like this, like they built it specifically for this.
Yeah, and then you get like a better angle as you're tugging on it.
Yeah, spitballing.
You see little, they look like little sandwiches just above where the stencil is. If I'm not mistaken, we've seen Raptors. Those are like hard points on the Raptors where they connect them to the truck.
Yes.
So they have
Yeah, so maybe they just have sort of hard
maybe
points
that's a
right
hard
there.
point. Good eye, Chris. That's a good call. Because they're definitely hauling in it, but I'm almost positive right there at sort of the throat of the bell is where they attach to the truck, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere up in that mess. I mean,
Yeah, and I mean that's where that guy is really pulling it right now, right? Like there's a dual effort going on here to get it the rest of the way.
Look at that. The guy tugging on it like, come here.
Unruly dog.
Naughty rocket.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Brady just said something in our back channel that made something dawn on. He said it's going to be cool to see the grid fit orientation for the catch mechanism, but like we can watch where the grid fins are to know just how much further they need to turn, right?
And they're about in position. It looks like.
Yeah, they're just about there.
That's it. Does everybody understand what we're saying? Like it looks like they're rolling the rocket into the position where the grid fins. You know how the grid fins are sort of a flattened X, and they're putting each pair of grid fins on either side of the tower. I wonder if that's why they're orientating like that, where it's not only the points at the bottom have to connect, but that's almost like the catch or the near catch position. Remember, the catch is going to happen off the side of the tower, like Elon said, so they don't land on the platform if they miss the catch, and then it's going to rotate over. But either way, that would be the side of the booster that should be pointing towards the tower. You know.
Yeah, so if you're so we're talking about that on that right side screen that we have up at the top, the grid fins all the way at the top of the rocket.
Yeah.
Orienting those with the tower.
Because presumably, you know, the idea is to keep those grid fins as far from the tower as possible, even on launch.
Yep. Absolutely. All that makes good sense. Hey, that's a good point, Steven. It may be getting them clear for the launch, getting the most clearances possible.
Yeah.
So again, look, they're getting close to the actual surface of the platform there. The big game of operation. You don't want to crumple up a Raptor bell or anything like that.
Yeah.
Each 2 of those Raptors weighs about as much as a car. So the Raptor coming in at 2 tons. No, actually, 2 tons, 1 ton. Yeah, it depends on what you're driving, a truck or like a little compact car. But each Raptor weighs a little bit less than a car, I guess you could say.
Good point here from David DeFlyer. I think the idea is that the Raptors are meant to be strong in order to survive the debris kicked up while landing on Mars. That's a good point.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
they're designed to be strong. That's for sure.
It's still just weird to see them stick out into what would be the slipstream as it's going up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would be very surprised. Maybe a test flight, like maybe the first flight doesn't matter, but I'd be very surprised if the final variant of Super Heavy, especially because the engines are supposed to be reused, right? I
Yeah.
would be very surprised if there wasn't some sort of non-load-bearing aero shell around these. So not the hard points, but just something to protect all that plumbing from the airflow. Maybe not needed now, but God.
Definitely eventually.
Here's a question from Jeb Kerman. How will the tower how will the tower rotate to catch and lift from the SPMT to the table?
From
Say that again.
well,
How
so
will
it wouldn't be. It wouldn't lift it from the SPMT to the. Oh, I understand what you're saying.
if you're taking it to the launch site for the first time, I guess is what they're
Yeah.
saying. Yeah.
Mhm.
How will the tower rotate to catch and lift from the SPMT to the table? Well, there's supposed to be a crane, as far as I understand, at the top that can rotate probably 360 degrees, right?
We don't think so.
No.
Yeah, we haven't seen the structures at the top of the tower to support a 360-degree crane, which is what we saw in some of the early renders, right? Remember that big New York thing where you're boarding in New York and you get on the
Right.
Tesla speedboat or whatever? We don't see the structure at the top of this tower to support something like that. We think it's going to be more of a trolley mechanism or some crane that's attached to the side of the tower somewhere that has some degrees of freedom to swing to the side. And maybe that makes sense because Elon said they're doing the catch on the side of the tower. So if you could do the catch on the side of the tower, can you also pick something up from the side of the tower?
I would assume. I
Right.
mean, that would be the
Yeah.
easiest way. I mean, one
Yeah.
system that can do two things. Yeah.
Yeah. And are the catch arms the same as the crane? Are the catch arms different than the crane? I mean, why would you have a crane and then separately the catch arms? Catch arms clearly have to hold up not only the mass
Right.
of the rocket, the mass of the moving rocket. Like as
Right.
it's swinging for
Yeah.
a landing, they have to hold more than the energy of the rocket. So
Well, and if you just put a couple of the catch points that are on the boosters, if you just put a
Yep.
couple of those on Starship, then you could also just roll a Starship up to the pad and use the
Yep.
same catch system arm to pick up a ship and ship, not Starship, ship, to pick
Eh,
up a ship and put it on top of the booster.
Starship ship.
Yeah. And didn't Elon at one point say something about maybe at some point down the line they'd catch the ship, or am I totally making that up?
I think he threw it out there
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
time. I
But
think
one of
it
those
was
things
sort of
we're
like
not
if
sure how
the
serious
belly
they
flop,
are.
Stuff. Yeah.
yeah, if the flip and burn doesn't work or something like that, then
Yeah.
maybe that's possible. I think that might have been somewhere in between some of the not so great landings and the successful landing. I think it was sort of a like
Yeah.
if we can't get this down, then maybe we'd consider catching the ship as well.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering
Gotcha.
that right. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And Brian Pruitt threw this in there. They're also orienting the fueling connections towards the tower as well as the access port between the methane and ox tanks. Yeah, good point there. So I think those pipes that we were watching early on in the stream, those green, the green
Sure, where
tubes.
those green connections were.
Oh, the pressurization lines. Yeah.
Mhm.
So my guess is those should now be facing the tower, if that's what those were. And that's a big if, because
I believe that. I
I'm
believe
just a
they are
photographer.
facing. I believe they are facing the tower right now. Yes.
We
Okay,
don't
very
see
good.
them here, so they're not facing this direction. We don't see them from Mary's angle, so they're not facing that direction. So, like a 75% chance they're facing the tower, I guess. I didn't really do the math there.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Wow.
So
Man.
once it's on the orbital launch platform, I mean, presumably there's not going to be anything else immediately to sort of, how do I want to do this? Keep it rigid, basically, to make sure that it's not going to. I mean, I guess it weighs 160 or more tons, but
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Make
It's just
sure
a-
it doesn't fall over.
yeah, that's basically where I'm going with it. Yeah, or even
well,
not necessarily fall over, but like maybe shift or move or.
well, B3 has been sitting there on the suborbital pad A for quite some
Weeks
time
now.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Larry was curious if they're able to swap the engines out once it's on the pad. What do you think?
That's
I
a
mean,
good. I think they
Yeah.
can. Yeah. And that's a good. That's a good procedure to have in place too. I mean, we've seen
Yeah,
them
I'm
do
sure
it
we'll see
before.
them
Yeah.
work it just to see maybe what the turnaround time could be, because if something goes wrong after one of these boosters comes back down, to be able to repair it as quickly as possible, or
Yeah,
not
and not
repair it,
have to
but like
take it all the way back.
replace, yeah, replace that engine.
Yeah, and they do it on the suborbital pads. We've seen them remove the engines there. Oh, look at the drone.
oh yeah, there's a drone right there in the middle of the booster, top of the screen, y'all.
I
Just
wonder
Oh,
if
next
yeah.
to the
they're.
COPV.
Yeah, yeah.
It's got an orange
Wonder if
body,
they're-
yellow body.
It'd be cool if they're grabbing footage for us to see later. Haha. I don't know if you're going to be able to top this, SpaceX.
So look. They've actually reattached those red lead lines, like the
Yeah.
hold down
Yep.
lines,
Yep.
and they look like they're being attached to the tower, and the workers are sort of hauling on them. So I bet
To the
you dollars
mountain.
to donuts they use those to align it, like get the
Yeah.
final alignment, and then hold it
Exactly.
in that alignment as they drop it down.
Yeah, because if
Yeah.
they all put some tension on there, then it should hopefully keep it from wobbling as much.
Yep.
Just like a ratchet strap. It's easy.
Yep. Yep. And just keep taking up the slack as the crane operator lets it down, and just keep the Raptors from ringing the bells against the side of the table there.
Yeah. People are talking about a cameraman on the left side.
Yeah, well, it looks. I don't know if there's.
Yeah.
any-
Oh, there's
oh,
a
yeah,
camera.
yeah, no, I'm
Yep.
looking now. Yep.
You
I
can
was
see a
looking
camera
at-
up there.
Yeah.
I was looking at the basket above his head there now, but yeah,
Yeah.
with a Steadicam on him.
Yeah, one of those backpack
Easy
rig
rig.
things. Easy rig, yeah.
Yep.
Let's see, someone wanted to know if we know the distance between the tower and the pad or the launch table.
We could guesstimate it with the shot from beach, because we know the diameter of the booster. There's another drone over on the side too, hovering in the left of this shot. See it?
Yeah.
Sure do.
Yeah.
No, we're Texas drone watchers too.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's so cool. It's like, oh wow, there's a drone flying there. Like,
So, what is the mechanism to actually hold the booster once it's on there? Are those those? They almost look like little handholds. Obviously,
Those
they're
are
bigger than a hand, but we're seeing like 5 of them, like 3 in the middle, and then 1 on each side.
yeah,
Is
they
that
look like
the
they
actual mechanism where
protrude.
it's going to be captured, or where does it get held from?
I mean, those are like placed equally around the base of the rocket. I see the slots as well, but the slots are not equally spaced around the bottom. So I don't know
Yeah.
that the slots are where something would insert. I bet you it's those. They almost look like rails, like handrails sticking off the side, and maybe those rails actually slide down into something, and then some sort of hydraulic or electric pin goes into the inside of the rail to connect
Sure.
the entire thing down. But
To
they
hold
do
it down,
those look
yeah.
like sliding rails or something like that, don't they?
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like you would never want your rocket to get bound up, because I know a lot of the times you don't have like a rail that it comes off, but it's just a pin or something like that. But I guess really, what's the difference between a pin and a rail, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I follow. I mean, I'm looking at it. It just doesn't
Yep.
look like that's enough. That's,
Well,
The hold down systems never do.
yeah,
I can
that's
tell
true.
you
That's
that.
true. They never do. Doesn't matter what it is. That's a good point. And
Remember
obviously,
the
a
two-
whole lot of engineering goes into making sure that those are able to bear enough load.
Yeah. Remember the 2 points at the top of the rocket, all the way to the
Oh,
rocket.
yeah,
being
that's
held
a
by
fair
the
point.
2 mount points at the top.
100% a fair point. Where it's just
Yeah.
those 2 little hard points up at the top that's the whole booster's currently being suspended by.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
I guess once you have, I didn't really get a full count, 8 or so, 8 to 10 of those. It's probably enough.
Yeah, something we should see it when we get another count. Let's see if we can't figure out how many of those points there are. It really does look to me like those are going to slot down into. Here we go. 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5. So is it 10?
So
Or is it
10
9?
8,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, I would guess there's 3 or 4 that we can't see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
between
probably
8 to 10.
8. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a nice even number. There was a good question here regarding the how much of the Raptors are sticking out from the side there. Why bother protecting the engines from the airflow on the way up when there's nothing protecting them on the way back down?
I mean, I think that's true, Chris.
But with a skirt
yes.
around them, I think doesn't that sort of prevent some of
Also-
that airflow entering into the like if there was a skirt, I'm saying that would sort of protect it from entering into that area.
Maybe some of it, it might be worse in some regards as it's coming back in at velocities. I get it. This is the
You
part
see
of the
what I'm
question that.
saying?
Oh, I do. Yeah.
It's like if you were driving down the road and you had a cup in your hand, an empty cup in your hand, and you held the opening towards the airflow. How much turbulence is there inside the cup? Because there's no like exit point for that air. So how much turbulence is there inside that cup since there's nowhere for the air to go?
It almost builds up. Like, go ahead, DK.
I was gonna say this cup, can fire air out when the engines are coming back in versus the other way.
But there's going to be a large portion of that flight that the engines aren't firing.
Yeah.
You get a build up of pressure underneath when you have an open space like that. You get a sort of build up of pressure, and it builds sort of almost like a natural dome, where the air is not going to move as much because it can't go anywhere. It can't flow through it. It's going to sort of go around it, and you'll have an area of higher pressure on the bottom of it. Certainly, it'll be turbulent.
Yeah.
But it'll sort of fill up. I'm going to use the terminology fill up and then protect it some, as opposed to if the sides are open, the air will flow right past the Raptors at high speed. And in fact, it'll go up into the plumbing of the Raptors and then hit the thrust dome on the bottom and then go out the sides, right?
Yeah.
So it's certainly, gosh, I don't know. I haven't done the fluid flow dynamics or anything like that myself. I couldn't do it myself, but I know that that's something SpaceX has had to have thought of, and right now we don't see it.
Well,
maybe they don't need it.
Something that we could probably easily agree on is that this is not currently in a launch configuration. There's going to be a significant amount of work done before it gets up. Like we were talking about the COPVs, those are probably going to have some sort of shroud, you'd think. So I imagine that
on the 5th, it's going. It's done. Whole
Say it
system's ready. It's going to Mars on the 5th, DK. Jeez.
Is that yeah?
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is definitely one of those situations where we can all speculate and stuff and be like, why are they doing it this way? And I'm sure SpaceX has thought of it.
Yeah, I'll bet they know. Yeah,
they know. They know that they've got some plumbing sticking out the side there.
It's not like there's a SpaceX engineer like comparing the CAD drawing to our live stream right now and like, what is this? What is that? What it's supposed to look like? Like that's not happening. It's not like
we didn't think of that.
We didn't think that was gonna fit. Wait, the drawing shows it fitting. I'm almost positive there's not a confused engineer out there holding up two things, wondering what happened.
Right. I like this comment from Isaiah. It's actually, it's from like an hour and a half ago, but they said, you know what I love seeing? The NASA spaceflight subscriber count going up so fast. It shows me so many new people are gaining interest in space, and that is a goal of mine for people. Absolutely. And we definitely appreciate everybody coming along for the ride. We're space fans, and we're into this, and we're just glad that there's as many of y'all out there that are as into it as we are.
Yeah. Space is exciting again.
Yeah.
I remember growing up and being super excited about just everything and not having people care as much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like I was talking about living in Tennessee. I had plenty of friends. How many of them were into space like I was? None. Like I'd tell them like when big stuff was coming, and they're, oh, that's kind of neat, But I didn't have anybody that was like as into space. So it's cool if you're like I was back then, and you don't have anybody around you that's into this stuff. We're just glad that you're able to come and join us, and and be a part of our community here. And just have somebody to, kind of express your excitement with.
I mean, growing up, my dad used to joke that I was going to take up space when I was older.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Oh gosh. Okay. Like.
But it's no, I mean, in like a jovial way, I guess that
Yeah.
could be taken wrong. Yeah. But no,
It's the
so,
sort of thing dads say. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, no, astronautical engineering, Dad. It's different. No, but it's just super exciting. It's super exciting to have so many people here now. Current count is 36,000 or so of us all watching this booster be lifted and then set down.
So I
Yep.
went off and I looked at some other photos that we had of it on the transport stand.
Oh, great.
And those 8 or 10 handhold places around are a lot higher up on the vehicle
they're
than
above,
where
yeah.
the stand held it. The stand
Exactly.
actually looks like it holds it on the lip, which there should not be a different attach mechanism on the orbital launch platform. So the orbital launch platform
sense.
should grab it on the lip as well. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
think?
Gotcha.
Which
So
would make
then-
sense because then the hold down clamps sort of release upward
It almost
instead
looks
of
like
pulling
Wouldn't that then
straight out. Like,
preclude-
Look
wouldn't
at
that
the
then
hard
make it so that you,
points.
yeah.
no,
Wouldn't
I'm,
that
See right
make you-
there.
no, I understand all that. I'm just saying where it. I'm just looking at where it attached to the transporter.
Yeah,
And
where
usually
it's
they
transported
attach to the
from.
transporter at the same place they attach to the launch pad.
No,
That's all I'm
what
saying.
I'm saying. That's what I'm
It's-
saying. You can almost see where the bottom of the booster body is. It looks thicker, like it's got hard
Oh,
points in
okay,
between
I'm
each
sorry.
I see what you're
engine
saying,
there.
yeah.
Yeah,
doesn't
I'm
that-
sorry, I misunderstood what you were saying,
Yeah.
Ross. Yeah.
But
No,
that then
we're all
suggests
excited.
that we, yeah, right. That then suggests that we wouldn't have any kind of skirt, right?
Oh,
Correct.
that's another good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
You're gonna
yes.
put an arrow
Interesting.
skirt around it. Yeah.
Interesting.
But all that is to say, let's see where it attaches on the orbital launch mount. But
yeah, we'll find out. In the fullness of time, we're gonna know.
Yes, indeed.
No kidding. This is just. And those engines are going to be totally hidden in the middle of the table. I wonder if they're not going to stick out a little bit. They may just be the exact same size as the table there, but. See, I wonder. You know, like the VAB has the movable platforms and stuff like that. I wonder if there's not some set of platforms or something. Like, if you need to get to one of the center ring engines, how do you
Oh.
do that?
Oh, there,
That's a
there,
good
there.
point. Like if there's
Yeah,
some sort of
there
internal
should
lift.
be, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all the way up from the floor, because it looks like you could walk around inside the body of the table, right? And you could get to some of the plumbings if that's the way that it lines up in the end.
So
But
so the way they normally do that is there's usually an engine there's usually something like an engine access kit
Yeah.
that would go up and attach to the sides of the orbital launch mount and then basically provide a full work platform under the engines for access to them and everything, and then you just remove it before liftoff.
yeah,
So if
There's
they
almost-
needed to on that, probably that's what they'd employ, or scissor lifts at this
yeah.
point.
If I was a human being on this side of the Raptor conga line there, right? And I needed to get to the other side, like I don't even know if I could fit through there. There's not very much room in between the engines. It looks like it would be a squeeze if you needed to fit in between, what is that, RB11 and RB2 or 7? I can't see, there's a strap. You'd have to sort of squeeze even just to get between the two bells. There's not a lot of room in
Yeah.
there. God.
Looks like they're still manipulating those tie downs as it's
Yeah.
It does.
going
Looks
down
like there's
very,
a lot
very,
of
very, very
slack.
slowly.
Yeah.
So they almost
Yeah.
look like they're not come-alongs like a ratcheting sort of come-along, but it definitely looks like they have a mechanical force multiplication mechanism, right?
Yeah.
Where you can ratchet something in or a little bit of a block and pulley sort of thing or something to help align that booster so that you don't hit a bell on the way down. And I don't. We haven't like read a super chat or anything since we could see.
Yeah,
this
no, it's been a
Raptor
minute. And
plumbing.
actually, just a second ago, Beth Sanders came in with
Yeah.
a $200 super
Holy
chat. Just saying
moly.
thank you for the feed. It's awesome. Beth, thank you very, very much for the support. Thank you, everybody who is either giving super chats or new memberships or just watching. Everyone just watching us, supporting us as well. Thank you to everybody who has been supporting us like that. This has been fantastic. Again,
And
this
don't
is the
forget,
first time.
if you haven't subscribed, you want to find your way back here. Make sure you're subscribed before you leave today. And if you want to hit that like button, you can. It kind of helps with the algorithms and stuff.
Yeah,
It becomes
absolutely.
more
Yeah, that's
visible.
That's a fair point too. Just make sure that you are also subscribing, and you'll be getting a lot more space in your inbox.
Yeah, 36,000 people watching and only 9,000 likes. What? Did the rest of you being forced to watch this? Like, did you? Is it you can't find the TV remote or the Xbox controller, or your mouse is broken? You can't change the channel. Let me see. Okay, there was 1,000 likes since I said that.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, there was 2,000 likes. It looks like. Good grief. No, but for real, that's a great point. This is what we do here on the NASA Spaceflight channel. We have coverage all over Boca Chica. We've got the Starbase 24/7 stream, Starbase Live, and we've got robotic uncrewed cameras that are live 24/7 all around Starbase looking at different things. We do coverage from Cape Canaveral, so launches from the Cape or interesting events. Sometimes we'll cover a rollout or a ship coming in, boosters coming back into the port. We have a fleet cam permanently mounted at Port Canaveral where those boosters come back in. We've done live streams from the port of Long Beach when drone ships arrived over there. Basically, Spaceport America, wherever things are happening, we try to get a camera out there so that we can share. Oh, just suddenly we're just going to switch to fleet cam real quick.
Oh, there you go.
Just a
There it is
peek.
right there.
Just a peek.
Just a peek of fleet cam, Michael with the subtle flex there that we can also pull in live footage from Cape Canaveral or Port Canaveral there. So this is what we do on the channel here. If you like this sort of stuff, I know we're not straight-laced news, like super serious all the time and stuff like that, but if you like our commentary, you want to come back and find us, make sure you toss a follow, turn on the notifiers. You can also follow on Twitter at NASASpaceflight. We don't go live without a tweet getting sent. So if you don't trust the YouTube notifications, and not everybody trusts ringing the bell or whatever, following us on Twitter is another great way to make sure you don't miss stuff like this. But that's what we do, and we're so glad that y'all are here joining us.
I just have to point out that closest to us is RB2, and on the inside it will say R2B2.
Scott Manley in the chat said, "Glad you showed fleet cam because this booster lift lacked gravitas." Oh, Alexa, how do you ban Scott Manley?
Yeah.
No, just kidding. We'd never do that. How's it going, Scott? I wonder how many people's Alexas just went off.
Oh no, yeah, you gotta be careful.
Sorry.
Here's one. This is actually from 33 minutes ago. Sorry, Genghis 31. Any idea if all engines are actually plumbed in or just attached? Since they did it overnight, that's ludicrously quick, regardless, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We don't have, I think, official information. Is every one of these engines ready to go? Is every wire and every hose and pipe and everything connected, or are they just sort of mounted there? We don't know officially exactly what the situation there is, but they certainly did it super fast. And if these engines are 100% installed and ready to go, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy fast. But we don't know for sure, like, are they 100% installed and activated and ready to go, or are they just sort of mounted there and there's a couple hoses hanging loose or something like that? I don't even know if I could look at that and tell you whether they were all connected.
You'd have to really know your Raptor in order to be able to tell if anything was out of position right now.
Yep.
Bram Vanderkran says, watching this from the 13th story of a building and realizing I'm only just above the dark gray ring on the booster. Insane.
Sure, yeah.
No kidding.
And what was it? So the entire Starship system is what is it, like 130 meters or something like that, and I realized that it's longer than an American football field.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's you would you would get a little winded running from one end to the other.
From one end to the other.
Yeah.
And it is still hanging from the crane, y'all. Somebody in chat asked, is it swaying? And you can see the bottom of the booster and all the Raptor engines sort of swaying back and forth here. The crane is still holding it up. And they've got those straps. You see the red straps that go sort of from the body of the booster down to the sides? They've got those hold downs, and they're sort of using that to try and keep it. But it's still going a little bit back and forth. They've paused right here before sort of inserting the engine bells down into the middle of the table, just making sure everything's aligned. You don't want to get halfway down there and then have this thing sway and crush 4 Raptors against one side of the table. So
yeah, it's sort of like, don't get your finger caught while they're lowering something. Don't get the engine bell caught while you're lowering it.
We've had just a whole lot of super chats coming through. Todd Johnson just dropped a $50 super chat, which is just huge. Thank you very much, Todd. And just all kinds of them coming through as we have been watching this guy get lifted and then now about to be set down. And we're a little distracted by what's going on screen, so I apologize if we haven't gotten to your question at all. And a lot of them are just like, hey, thanks. And thank you guys very much for the support.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll try to scroll through here and again try to find some that are kind of up to what we're talking about now. Yeah, the question about Thiago Ramos, how do those COPV survive max Q without any wind protection? Yeah, we were kind of talking about that earlier. We don't know. They might put like a guard on it or something. We'll see. And eventually, if those COPVs are still needed in the final operational configuration, they'll probably be moved to the inside, would be my guess. But we'll see. Here's a question from Alexander Custon. Says, is it possible that the clamps inside the launch table will fit in the gaps between the Raptors so the skirt sits on top? That's kind of what we were talking about before. That is sort of realized that it's not those what looks like a handhold, that it actually looks like it will rest on the skirt. It's not much of a skirt, but you know, we know what we're talking about when we say skirt, like the bottom. Oh, what is it? Look like smoke.
Wonder what those handhold, those little handhold clamps, or I don't know what to call them exactly, are for then, if not to.
It's where the Kerbals hang on when this thing launches.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
It's a little handrail. You put a ladder on the side, and you can just have the Kerbal grab a hold. Yeah. What is that smoke? I
always
see the
fall
smoke
face
now.
first, no matter what.
I think it's somebody smoking.
No way.
That's what it looked like to me.
Like legitimately, the guy sat down and
smoking or vaping. Yeah.
There's got to be some other explanation.
There's
got to be some other explanation.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I see somebody's like down low to the ground there. I see a worker sort of on their knees watching, I think, the edge.
Yeah.
Huh. That thing has so much motion to it. Look at how much it's moving,
it's really
though.
wobbling.
Wow.
I mean, as they're actively lowering it, too, it's...
Oh, we lost you there, Chris.
Coming in real quiet, Chris.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just said as they're lowering it too. Like it looks like it's lowering. Those numbers seem to be getting closer to the base.
Yeah. Yep. Just very carefully here.
Yeah.
It looks like it's going a little fast, actually.
Cranking
in
on
terms
something?
of maybe.
Maybe they're
like
past the lip.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it is definitely coming down. We can no longer see the numbers on those engine bells.
Yep.
That's right.
Are these tie downs then going to be, I guess we'll call it semi-permanent once the rocket's in place? I presume that they'll just leave them on there.
We just saw them install them earlier, so they weren't there for transport and they weren't there overnight. We actually saw them attach them early this morning before the lift. And if I had to guess, I think that as long as it was bolted to the transport stand, they didn't need those tie downs, right? Those hold downs. And then they added them when they were going to go around and unbolt it. So we saw them add the red straps, and we saw them sort of cinch them down a little bit. Then a little bit later, they went around and they unbolted the whole thing or disconnected it. And maybe it's just you got to get control of it. It's like getting another hand on it before you completely unbolt it from the transport stand. And if I had to guess, once they get it secured here, the straps go away, and eventually the crane gets disconnected. But I think they're a control mechanism to get you a way to keep that booster under control and centered while you've got it on the crane like this, you know?
Sure.
So we've got two super chats like back to back that are like saying the opposite things, and it's anybody's guess who's right here. So one says, no way those engines are plumbed. This is a process pathfinder. First and foremost, they have to ensure that they can put this monster up there before they send it up to orbit. All right, point taken, good speculation. And then right behind James comes Chris. It says you can see the plumbing and wiring is connected. The wires are going up into the space behind the skirt. So Yeah, it's hard to tell. It's really kind of
I've done that.
impossible to know for sure.
I've done that trick, swapping a motor into my IS-300 many years ago. Like, oh yeah, look, it's all connected, and they're just stuffed through the firewall. So,
Yeah, I have parts left over. Is that? Am I supposed to have parts left over?
Depends on what brand of furniture you're assembling.
I mean, it's almost all the way down to the bottom of the booster there. Just the tops of those Raptors sticking above the table now, so.
Yeah, here's a good question. I wonder how deep the booster will fit inside the table, whatever holds it. I wonder how if it will retract to avoid the collision with a bell or plumbing at liftoff.
I love that you chose that question because that's what I was just going back to look at some of the photographs of to try to gauge that. I don't think it's going very, very far down.
So it's like set on the top of what we can see as the table.
Kind of, yeah.
And part of that, I'm going to guess here, but part of that is you don't want to have like a silo that the entire rocket has to come out of when it takes off. So once it's lit the engines and it's going, you don't want it to have to clear a huge structure, like come out of a tube or anything like that. You want it to be clear of the rest of the structure really quickly, if I had to guess. You know what I mean? Just making a case. Also, look at the brackets on the bottom of the COPVs there. So the big black tanks on the side are the composite overwrap pressure vessels, COPVs. And you can see the triangle brackets that sort of hold them up. Is there a slot in the table for those? Are those going to stay up above the table?
Yeah.
We need to pay attention here because we can see sort of how deep it goes down into the table based on the other things we can see. Those brackets, the safety, the handrails or whatever those are, the Kerbal rails, whatever. That one sort of slot, it looks like a pass-through or something like that.
Very much so, and I think the thing too here is just to remember for everyone at home, right? Our viewing angle is going to make it look like it goes a little bit below the surface when it might not.
Right.
Yeah.
For the actual one, that's going to be. I think that's the better shot, right there for judging how deep into it, how deep into the orbital launch mount it goes. Yeah.
So we'll see here.
I like this comment from John McQuarrie. Your channel is a little bit better than my newspaper scrapbook from the Gemini and Apollo days I followed in my elementary school days back in the 1960 space race. That is awesome.
Love it.
Fantastic.
Yes, that to me that would be the ultimate, to be able to see the early days of the space program on up through Starship development.
Gosh,
that's incredible. You see the entire life of the space shuttle developed and then operational on into retirement, and then see commercial crew and now Starship and stuff. That's got to be a really cool thing to be able to see.
See the thing I'm looking forward to seeing for the first time in my lifetime, at least, is human beings on another world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because what that must have been like from 79 to 72. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially those few moments you could look at the moon and go, there are two people standing on that right now.
Yep.
That's going to be cool. Like, that's going to be incredible.
Yeah, because all we have the old footage we can go back and watch, but we never got to experience it live. Like I love that the clip you see of Neil Armstrong stepping onto the moon, and then you see at the bottom this really old school. Of course, at the time it was probably pretty progressive, but it just said live from, and it had moon just flashing.
Moon, yeah.
Live from moon.
Well, and I mean the moment, I mean like that still encapsulates it for me, because when you read and you go back and you look at those times, or when you remember those times, especially in the United States, the most trusted person in the United States at that point was, believe it or not, a reporter, and his name was Walter Cronkite, and he was always the consummate professional, no matter what. I mean, when he was reporting on the Kennedy assassination, always very composed. And it was Armstrong landing on the moon that broke him.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
there's the clip of him taking his glasses off and wiping his eyes. Like, wow.
Whew. Yeah.
Speechless, like for the first time in his career.
So it looks like they're manipulating those hold-on straps. I'm trying to figure out if I can discern exactly what's going on with it. They've got the crew of 3 or 4 now on the right side.
Yeah, it definitely looks like they're tightening them down. Perhaps they seem to get one of them seemed to get tighter at least.
Yeah.
The one on the right might not have cooperated the first
Yeah,
time.
it could be. Yeah, it looks like somebody just got a big metal bar. It looked like, and I was like poking at it. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
one
look at
fell. That's
that.
exactly what happened. It was like a hook.
Did they drop it? They had a hook? It is.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Why does that tool exist up there? Like, who made that curved hook that they could use to grab things?
Someone thought ahead.
Can you imagine? Ah, geez, Jim, go get the hook.
Go get the hook.
You drop
Drop
it
the
again.
strap again. Yeah,
Yep,
drop it. Go get the hook.
Oh boy.
Look, they're passing it around even. Been put in the
And it just
designated
goes-
stowage
Yep.
area.
Also just called the floor.
Yes, exactly. Also the floor.
Has the downward movement stopped for right now?
I think it
I
has,
just
yeah.
saw some sway just now, right as I was
Yeah.
saying that. Saw a
Yep.
little bit of sway.
It did just sway. You can see the videographer really obviously there with the camera rig.
Yeah.
The crane that you wear as a backpack that holds up the camera for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Jack is adjusting the shot there, it looks like.
Turning here with a $5 super chat said, whatever the mounting system is, it'll have to get out of the way fast. Those Raptors protrude out wider than the booster body. Yeah, it is going to have to get out of there.
Oh, and they can. This is what would be referred to as the tail service like the umbilicals, the T0 umbilicals. But those hold down clamps can release and get out of the way very, very, very quickly. Hey, there we go. Speaking.
I know what you're excited about. There's some photos that the internet just saw.
Yeah. Chat, we
Well,
are
that too.
aware. Yep, we're on it. We're on it.
We're on it. Yep.
Anybody know if Elon tweeted?
I'm not sure.
You
Maybe.
know, like maybe.
I feel like
never know
if
with
he
him.
did, somebody would have said something.
What I so
Early.
love
If
is like
only-
is one of those pictures shows you the hold locations actually.
Yes, exactly. That's the
Yes,
one that I'm
which is
really
why
excited
yes,
for.
which yep.
You can see the big flat plates on the bottom, exactly.
Yes. So, but yeah, no, the quick disconnects can get out of the way very quickly. Yeah, so that's not an issue.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do we know
man.
anything about why some of the engine bells are like white on the inside?
Indications that those nozzles have never seen a firing.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And I'm going to phrase that very carefully to say indications that the nozzle has not seen a firing, because you can fire an engine without a bell if you needed to. So there's that possibility, but we'll wait to see if Elon or SpaceX confirms that some of the Raptors have not been fired. But definitely those engine bells have not seen a firing.
Right. It is interesting. I didn't know that they were that color before they got fired.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, very nice, clean, and shiny looking.
Yeah, they look really clean up until they do get fired. We had a super chat come in right quick. Todd Johnson with a $50 super chat, which is just a huge amount of support. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Says, appreciate the awesome coverage. Any info on the S20 lift?
I mean,
I think, yeah, I think we can safely say soon.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily mean that like trademark. Like
Not like
actually
TM.
soon.
Soon, but
yeah.
no, really soon. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, is it possible that the ship could roll out tomorrow and we would be looking at a stack on Friday? It's totally possible that could happen. Is it possible that something comes up and they end up waiting a couple more days? Certainly. It's all sort of like they're going as, I mean, look, they're literally working on it right now,
Yeah.
with multiple lifts. I mean, yeah, like this could go at breakneck speed. This could be a rollout tomorrow. Could be a rollout Friday. We don't know yet. We're watching the road closures and we're working it, but right now that's sort of what we got.
I've actually, I went and checked since we didn't really know whether Elon had tweeted or not. I checked, and he did in fact tweet.
Oh,
what do you know? What do you know?
Surprise! I know not a lot of people were aware of this. Nobody really follows Elon, I don't think, nor do they instantly jump on his tweets. But here's that tweet from Elon Musk saying, moving the rocket to the orbital launch pad. And a couple of these, that didn't really make it that much bigger, did it? Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, we want to get the view of that third one. That's the one that I'm particularly want to show.
Yep, look at that.
Yeah, that looks cool.
That's
That
a
gives
good
you
shot.
kind of an idea of how far the GSE tanks are from the launch mount.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And this
And
shot
the,
here,
Yep, go DK.
which I mean, what a lens. But you can actually see where it will be grabbing. It looks like, yeah, it's just going to grab the lip of the rocket rather than any of those hold downs.
Yeah,
Yep,
you can see what looks like the hold down clamps around the perimeter there. If that's what those are, right? They're it looks like they might fold out and grab it and then fold back in.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what it
Yep.
looks like.
Huh.
So
So
really cool context there, I think.
Then a question with the capture mechanism that we're eventually having is it going to have any control over the rotation, or will it have to be rotated exactly correct? Or maybe that inner circle will be able to rotate itself to make sure that it's going to go on those lips. You understand what I mean?
Fascinating question.
Yeah,
Yes,
like I don't know
because
how
they
that
have
will
to
then be
align.
captured.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it depending on what the catch arms are capable of doing, I mean, it's you could certainly design them to be able to rotate it a bit if you needed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Trying to discern right now if it's looking like it is being lowered again right now.
Yeah, just a little bit there.
Yeah.
I'd really like to see the shot from the top right now. Like,
Yeah,
how
right?
much clearance is there from the booster to the side of the table?
Yeah,
We need more NASA spaceflight helicopters going.
I would assume the answer to that is just enough to account for what the maximum liftoff wind and drift would be
There you
as
go.
it leaves the
Yeah.
pad. Yep.
Yeah, and you can see the workers look like they're right up against the side of it, so there can't be a huge gap. It's not like a 5-foot or 10-foot gap or something, because they are really close to the side of the rocket.
Yeah.
The red straps don't seem to be really doing a lot anymore. They just look slack.
If anything, they look like they're almost in the way.
Yeah. But they've got to be close here. This may be sort of the end of what we will visually see happen.
Yeah.
Y'all. So
Yeah.
it's gone up, it's gone down, it's rotated around. We saw up the back end of the Raptors and all those crazy shots where I don't know if anybody saw me tweeting, but I was just tweeting like, just taking screenshots constantly. But I don't know how much more visually we're going to see here. The
Because
workers just... Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, because basically at this point where you were saying, Das, is it's almost down to what would be referred to as soft mate, where it's in position for the actual hard mate to the orbital launch mount.
Yeah.
Here, where it will actually be grabbed by its hold down system. And then
Look how
once
close-
that happens, it's just rock solid, and you're not going to see
Yeah.
anything move. Yeah.
Yep. Look how close the COPVs are to the top of the table now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's got to be clearance for those triangle brackets at least.
Well, do we have?
About hip mid thigh is what it looks like from some of the
Oh,
guys
yeah.
standing around it. Yeah.
I'm looking at
So,
the
like,
reflection
little
of
less than half
the
a meter.
yeah, the
Sorry.
worker in the dark top there that's sort of halfway down. You can see his reflection on the side of the rocket. He's really close to it. So,
Yeah.
Kind of looked like he was leaning on it.
Yeah,
for
just
a
about.
second.
Well, you know.
You can see it near the tan pants. Like, you can see the reflection of the
Yeah.
guy who's kneeling down next to the person with the tan pants there.
Mhm.
So, huh.
Do we have that other view that's kind of, I think it might be beach cam that was like far enough away to kind of see? Well, maybe.
Yeah, beach cam there.
Yeah, just a bit too far.
I think it was a different angle that I was thinking of, where you could kind of see a little better representation of what, like almost like a level look at it. But
Yeah.
that might have
Beach
been
cam-
Jack or Mary's camera actually that I was thinking of.
Yeah, beach cam sort of has that long range shot, but right now we still have some turbulence, so I'm not zooming it in because we want the time lapse of the whole thing. And
Gotcha.
then once the turbulence starts to go down, as it cools down in the evening, beach cam's image clears up because it's a good distance away, right? And we'll see what's
It's hot out there, y'all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is. It's hot.
Especially when you're carrying concrete.
Yep. Appreciate that, Steven. It's like the rite of passage. Like NSF folks have to go to Boca Chica and carry a block of concrete across the beach in order to earn their stripes.
That's
Yeah,
right.
can't
It
wait.
was cool. It was a pleasure. I was available to do anything, any way I was needed. I was definitely willing to do it.
I appreciate you fixing that air temperature sensor on the robot. It was reporting 154 degrees, and I was pretty sure that wasn't right.
Seems
I know it's
high.
hot,
Yeah.
but Steve went out there and troubleshot it for us, and now it reads a much lower temperature, like 100 degrees instead of 154.
Yeah.
Downright balmy. But it does look like a lot of the motion has slowed down quite a bit.
Yeah.
And to get, we've also, like, the reason I'm sort of bringing this up is because it may take them a while to connect it down. And both Jack and Mary have been out there in the hot sun, not just now, not just for this lift, but they were there all this morning when we thought it was going to go. Then those rainstorms came through. They had to dodge that. So Mary and Jack have been out there all day.
Yeah.
And at some point here, we're cutting everybody loose so they can get back to the AC and relax. And, I say relax, really it's go back and start uploading footage and stuff. But
At least be inside and be in the AC.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's just like, because things move so fast, like I'm just thinking back, like, so help me out here. Like, this booster was really like put together last week, and wasn't like the orbital launch table installed Saturday,
A couple days ago.
Yeah.
couple days ago. You
Yeah. They've been welding on it nonstop since they put it up there. So
I can imagine.
wouldn't be surprised if there's
Wow.
somebody off camera right now, like welding on the side of it, because I haven't. You could see them from the beach camera, like in the middle of the night. You see.
Oh,
these little
Das, they
points
are
of crack.
bottom left. Bottom
Are they
left. They're
really?
inside of it. They're welding
Oh,
it right.
damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's definitely
Like,
some sparks in there. Look at that.
Yeah.
Flashes. See, I was kidding, but you watch enough of this, and good grief.
Oh man.
I threw up this other I think I'm just always going to gravitate to comments like these.
Yeah, no, they're great.
This
They're
is
very fun.
Ian Brosh. I've been waiting since 1951 for this and seen it all from Apollo to ISS. Thank you, Elon, for making it happen from an 80-year-old Kiwi.
There you
That
go.
is awesome. We're
Nice.
so glad to have you here on the stream with us. We're glad that that we're all able to witness this.
So, what we had is handholds. I'm trying to discern where they're at now, because they seem to be just a little bit lower than the angle
Yeah.
that we can see.
You're
Yeah.
right.
They are definitely. I mean, they look like they're partially past the lip of the table.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if they're somehow like secondary holds, or
Yeah, I don't know.
do you know what I mean? Like if it grabs it from the lip and then also.
Yeah.
Maybe this is just throwing something out there. Maybe they're sort of like to help. Maybe they go into a slot and help guide it into its perfect orientation.
Yeah, I could
Plausibly.
envision like a V-shaped guide so that as you lower it down, it sort of puts it into the perfect orientation.
Yeah, total
I-
speculation there.
Yeah. I don't know if that's. I mean, I've done that in Kerbal before to make sure that your docking ports on your space stations are perfectly aligned.
Mhm.
You can use the panels to make little guides so that they sort of guide into position. But back in my day, before you could rotate docking ports and all that nonsense.
And I'm going back and I'm looking at the super wide photo that Elon shared, and it doesn't look like there's anything
Yeah,
like
I was
that.
looking at that too.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's anything like that. So that looks like it's out the window.
Yeah,
But that's
you're
what
right.
makes speculation fun. Practice in being wrong. All right, I'm gonna do an A/B here. Let's see. Oh, there is still movement. There was just a little bit of rotation just now.
Swaying a little bit there, you can see, or rotating. Yep.
Chat, someone is asking what Mechzilla is, and I think that's due to Elon's tweet where he's talking about Mechzilla will do this for future rockets. Is that in reference to
The tower
arms?
with the arms and stuff
Yeah,
on it. Yeah, the
so it's the-
chopstick arms and stuff. Yeah.
Or the capture arms that we've been talking about.
Yep.
They call it Mechzilla?
That's what
That
Elon
is what his
called it,
tweet
yeah.
says. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Mechazilla. Always great names.
Love it. Oh yeah, you can really see it swaying in the from under the crane there.
It's still got a fair amount of rotation. Are they sort of slowly orienting it and waiting for it to get exactly where it needs to be?
Yeah. I mean,
It
you can
might
see
be,
it. Yeah, the person with the tan pants there seems to be giving hand signals.
Mm-hmm.
So they seem like they're, I don't know if in charge is the right thing, but they're sort of doing all sorts of hand motions there. I don't know what that hand motion means. Moving into the chicken dance now, like I guess this is the secret language of cranes. Like
This.
Name that
Well,
hand
there's-
motion.
Oh man, there's a movie title for you: The Secret Language of Cranes.
you think it's about birds, but then you click on the video.
Yeah.
Welcome
Movies
to
that are built
Starbase.
around. Yeah. Movies built around the title.
And again, y'all, this does get down to the point where there may not be as much visually. I mean, at some point, the booster will stop moving, and we'll say, "Well, it looks like it stopped moving." At the end, and we'll cut away from that. But I'm going to reiterate, both Jerry and Mac,
Yeah,
Mary and
nailed it.
Jack, Mary and Jack.
Oh.
Mary and Jack have both been out there all day, not just for this, but for the earlier lift attempt as well before those storms. So I do want to cut them loose at some point and let them get back into the AC. So, yeah. It could be, like, if you're wondering, oh, well, will we stay alive until the crane actually detaches? We've seen the crane stay attached for days.
Yeah.
So it could be quite possible that the crane stays attached for a while. And there, in the upper corner, you can see Mary and Jack's information. They're the two folks out there in the field running the crewed cameras, like the actual cameras that are operated by a human being, as opposed to the robot army that's out there. They can move around and they can get shots and angles like this one right here that the robots just can't do. The robots are great at being out in all weather and getting these wide context shots, but they're really not meant for the close-in work like this. 24/7 surveillance of the workers. They're more for the big picture stuff. and Mary and Jack running out there to be able to bring us these close-in shots. So I think at some point what we may do here is back off and have Mary and Jack both shut down their feeds and pack it up, and then go back over to the robotic cameras. And when we do that, we'll probably shut down the commentary and leave you in the capable arms of Starbase Live. Starbase Live is our 24/7 stream. All of our robotic cameras that are outstanding in their field.
Oh,
Hey.
oh boy.
Doss, I'll have
Oh.
you know that my camera's very advanced. It's not crude at all.
So we leave it in the hands of the robotic cameras and let our human beings get back into the air conditioning. I think we are very rapidly approaching that point now. Y'all agree?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I
we're
think so.
pretty
I think
much
it's
there.
just about as much as we're going to be able to see.
Yep, I agree. So I think it might be time right now to start spooling down. Let's go around the horn and just once again put names to voices. I know a lot of times you hear a bunch of voices, you might not know exactly who's talking. We don't put faces on the screen, not our faces at least, because we use all of the screen real estate for rockets and rocket-related activities. Not a lot of face cams going on here. So let's start off up at the top. Chris Gebhardt, thank you so much for hanging out with us here today.
My absolute pleasure. That was incredible to witness.
Yep, that just looked crazy, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, seeing all of them there together, all those Raptors together, amazing.
Yep. Chris Gebhardt is the assistant managing editor for NASA Spaceflight. Find him over on Twitter at ChrisG_NSF. You can see it in the upper right-hand corner. And usually mods put the links into chat as well. If you want to click and toss a follow, you don't want to miss the space news. Chris is a person to follow for sure. Also, back in the studio today, Derek. I keep calling him
Hello.
DK. Derek, thank you
either
so
way.
much.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, again, really just incredible to watch. This nearly 200-ton booster be lifted and then set down onto that orbital launch platform.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Absolutely. Y'all, DK, I'm like, Derek, DK, I don't know. Which do you prefer? Which one
It's
would you like to
DK
use?
very frequently on the internet, but I mean, I answer to Derek, but yeah, either way.
Okay, I'll go with DK. I'll go with DK until you tell me otherwise.
I was gonna say we learned that you respond to Derek when we were describing something.
Yeah, when you're talking
else.
about the oil Derek, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Me? You can find DK on Twitter at Declarations. It's DK Larations. You can see in the upper right-hand corner. Also, his website, declarations.tv. You playing Kerbal tonight?
I mean, after watching this, I have to play Kerbal tonight, right? My goodness. I have to.
Over on his Twitch channel, you can get to his Twitch channel by going to the website there. Let's get the link into chat as well. But I look forward to a fully assembled Starship stack in Kerbal by about 10 p.m. tonight. Sound good?
Yeah, no, easy.
Oh, yeah, that's right on. Okay. You put the Kerbal handles on the side so they can ride to orbit. Also, y'all, back in the studio, we had Steve and Mar. Steve, how you doing?
This has been really cool. It's good to be back on the stream. I'm glad everybody joined us today. It's something like 35,000 of y'all. That's crazy. And a new feature I just learned about is when this is over, it's going to automatically kick you on over to Starbase Live. So if you're not done watching, that's what's going to happen. So you just keep it playing, and it's just going to go boop, just roll you right over to Starbase Live. I'm sure Doss was going to touch on that. I don't know.
Oh, no.
I just thought I'd throw it out there.
That's absolutely fine. Definitely, we're not just going to turn everything off until you have to go home. You can keep watching on Starbase Live. We're going to have Jack. This is Jack's camera right now. We're going to have Jack pack it up and get back in the AC. But you can continue watching. Hooray! Said hooray. You can keep watching Starbase Live. It'll automatically recommend that as the next video here at the end of the stream. But Steve, thank you so much for joining us. Space Coast Steve without the second to last E. On Twitter, it's in the upper right-hand corner. One of the talented photographers and commentators and hosts we have here on the stream. Appreciate you, Steve.
Yeah, good to be here.
Also, Michael Baylor. Not saying much because there's too many cameras. How do you choose which camera to show, Michael?
You don't choose. You just, I don't know what the right word is.
You just keep clicking.
The camera chooses for you.
You just go with your gut without thinking, and you try to keep changing it quickly because I noticed people who are looking at something and trying to get a view of it, and there's other people who want to see something on a different camera, so I'm sorry if I cut away, or I wasn't showing what you wanted at the right time. But thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed the great views from Jack and Mary.
Absolutely. Y'all, Michael Baylor is instrumental to keeping the lights blinking behind the scenes here, running code and video and all sorts of stuff for us. So make sure you toss a follow to him. He's Next Spaceflight over on Twitter. And we started with Jack and Mary, but one more time, Jack Beyer and Mary Boca Chica Gal out there in the field. Massive thanks to both of them for being out there. And there's Jack's information. He's at the Jack Beyer out there on Twitter. And then also Mary, she's going to be Boca Chica Gal, another fantastic follow if you want to keep up with this stuff. And then lastly, back here at the studio, my name is John Galloway. If you're watching over on Twitch, you may know me as Das. But we're going to go ahead and shut down this live commentary here today. You don't have to completely leave. We won't leave you hanging with no more live views of Starbase. We'll send you over to Starbase Live. And all I got to say is that was really cool to see. I cannot wait until the next big event when we see that Ship 20 roll out to the pad, and then the same operation for the Starship. That's going to be coming up here in the coming days. So if you haven't yet, folks, make sure you follow the channel, etc., etc. Thanks for the super chats. There's no way we could read all the super chats. It's just not a thing. I know there's tons of things that we didn't ever get to, but across the board, we appreciate you. We're able to share these experiences and these views with you because y'all keep showing up. The financial support, you picked up something from the merch store, you like to tweet, or you just hung out and chat. Whatever it is, we're able to do this because of y'all. So thanks to you from everybody at the NASA Spaceflight team for making all this possible. For now, go over check out Starbase Live. Good luck to the SpaceX teams finishing up the installation, first ever time putting a super heavy booster on the orbital launch mount. And we will see you nerds later.